Chapter 2085. The Lord of Six Stars has successfully condensed the mysterious heaven bead. All teachers and students of Dragon Soar Academy must guard it with all their might. Do not covet it. Anyone who covets it will be severely punished. Those who refuse to repent will be punished. Chu Tianyu suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His abdomen burst open, flesh and blood splattering everywhere. His face was deathly pale, his eyes staring blankly in the direction of the mysterious heaven bead, as if he had lost his mind. Yu Tsuanjian and Elder Song were aghast, their mouths agape. They couldn't make a sound for a long time. Kong Yuanzhou looked at the three mockingly. After a while, he sneered, "The Hex Star Pagoda has a spirit. It has guarded Dragon Soar for thousands of years." The Emperor ordered him to keep the chaotic tower and the mysterious heaven bead for the Lord of Six Stars. "I'm afraid you've already forgotten what the Hex Star Pagoda's spirit said when the mysterious heaven bead was condensed. Do you really think that the Emperor's things can be easily coveted?" Inside the chaotic tower, there was a deathly silence. Chu Tianyu slumped to the ground. Suddenly, he grinned and laughed lowly. Tears mixed with blood slid down from the corners of his eyes. His laughter grew louder and louder. His voice was hoarse with madness and sorrow. "Ha ha ha ha. Chu Tianyu, who do you think you are? What Yi Liangqin? What Lord of Six Stars? You're a joke. A complete joke. Ha 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 ha." Everyone in the Qilin team looked at him with complicated expressions. There was anger, pain, and pity in their eyes. Murong Shui wanted to say something, but in the end, she turned her head and bit her lip. Kong Yuanzhou looked at Mayan. His sarcastic expression immediately became gentle. "Miss June, please take back the mysterious heaven bead that belongs to you." Mayan took a deep breath and slowly walked towards the mysterious heaven bead. The closer she got to the blue bead, the more she could feel the vibration of the Tian Mo Qin space inside her. It was as if the powerful sacred object that had dominated the three realms couldn't hold back anymore. It wanted to rush out and devour a part of it. The entire chaotic tower was silent. Everyone's eyes were firmly fixed on Mayan. Everyone wanted to know. The mysterious heaven bead that sent Chu Tianyu flying and made him spit blood, would it allow Mayan to touch it? Was this beautiful young girl the real King Yi Liangqin? The girl slowly raised her hand. His slender hands were as white as jade, and his joints were well proportioned, as if they were carved from the most translucent white jade in the world. His fingertips landed lightly on the dark blue stone. Everyone held their breaths. Then, to everyone's surprise, nothing happened. The chaotic tower was silent. The mysterious heaven pearl in Mu Yan's hands and the jade box beneath it were also silent. There was neither light nor vibration. Everyone looked at each other, dumbfounded. So, this proves that Mayan is Yi Liangqin. Why does it feel so unreal? However, no one knew. Under the appearance of silence, Mayan actually hears a sound in her ears. "We respectfully welcome the Lord of Six Stars to the chaotic tower. This is the profound heaven pearl. May I ask, Lord of Six Stars, should we announce to the world the true ownership of the chaotic tower and mysterious heaven pearl?" Mayan immediately recognized the voice. It belonged to the Six Stars Tower's artifact spirit. She promptly said, "No need." The true ownership that the Six Stars artifact spirit was talking about was obviously her identity as Mayan. What kind of joke was this? She couldn't hide it enough. Why would it announce it on its own initiative? "May I ask, Lord of Six Stars, should we take away the chaotic tower?" Chapter 2086. Mu Yan blinked and looked around in surprise. "This tower is mine too." "Naturally." Six-star equipment spirit replied, "The Emperor has decreed that the chaotic tower and mysterious heaven pearl belong to Six-star Lord. In Flying Dragon City, the Six-star order surpasses all rules and is only restricted by the Emperor. You can naturally take the chaotic tower. Only restricted by the Emperor." Mu Yan's heart stirred. Who is the Emperor? The Emperor is the Emperor. He is supreme, and no one can disobey his orders. Mu Yan thought for a while and changed the topic. What is the use of this chaotic tower? Six-star equipment spirit was silent for a while before replying. The chaotic tower is a place to cultivate and temper one's spirit. It has two functions, cultivation and training. Cultivating in the chaotic tower will be twice as fast as cultivating outside. By training in the chaotic tower, one can accumulate combat experience and condense a true killing intent of blood and fire. Mu Yan asked doubtfully, "Isn't this similar to Six-star Tower?" Replying Six-star Lord, "The chaotic tower is different." The ancient voice said slowly, "Six-star Tower cultivates and selects true geniuses. As for the chaotic tower, it is called the chaotic tower because it is formed by the chaos and the unity of all desolations. The chaotic tower does not nurture a single strong cultivator, but an invincible army." Devour suddenly shrunk back. "You're saying that the chaotic tower can accommodate many people to cultivate and train at the same time?" "Yes, according to Six-star Lord's level, your strength is equivalent to level 7 Nihility Immortal and can accommodate 100 people. Strength is equivalent to level 9 Nihility Immortal and below Golden Immortal and can accommodate 1,000 people. Strength is equivalent to Golden Immortal and above, can accommodate 10,000 people." Six-star equipment spirit was still reporting the number of people that the chaotic tower could accommodate at each level. Mu Yan's mind was already in turmoil, and she could not take it in. Being able to accommodate 100, 1,000, or even 10,000 people to train at the same time, did that mean that she could let the Netherflame army and Liangchen army enter the chaotic tower to train? However, level 7 Nihility Immortal, she had heard from Di Ming that it represented tribulation, or at least peak leaving body stage. It was still far from allowing the chaotic tower to accommodate 1,000 people. But just 100 people was not bad. Mu Yan suppressed the excitement in her heart and asked with her divine sense, "Can I take the chaotic tower away now?" "Yes." The Six-star pagoda artifact spirit paused for a moment, then said, "But please allow me to remind Lord of Six-star that the chaotic pagoda is a rare, demon god artifact. Even a sovereign cannot fully control it. Lord of Six-star, your current cultivation is too low." Chapter 2087. Lord Ho's Desperate Strike 1. However, at this moment, the people within the chaotic tower were already in an uproar due to this long-lost silence. Yutsuanjian and Elder Song stared at the mystical heaven orb in her hand with blazing eyes, as if they wanted to pounce on it. Mu Yan could only gather her thoughts and ask one last question. "So you mean to leave the chaotic tower here?" "Yes and no." The ancient voice said respectfully, "The more people who train in the chaotic tower, the more killing intent, spiritual energy, and divine sense will remain in the tower. It will be more beneficial to the Lord of Six-star's army. I suggest that you place the Hex-star Tower in Divine Elephant City for all cultivators to train in until the day you take it back." Mu Yan's eyes grew brighter and brighter, and her lips curled into a sly smile. "All right, I'll leave the chaotic tower in the center of Divine Elephant City. Grandpa Artifact Spirit, please look after it for me." "Anne." She paused and was about to continue when Yutsuanjin suddenly roared. When the Lord of Six-stars arrived, heaven and earth shook, and the sky was filled with multicolored light. The entire soaring dragon bead belonged to Yi Liangqin. But now that this woman has the mystical heaven orb, the artifact spirit and the chaotic tower have no reaction at all. Doesn't that prove that she's not Yi Liangqin? "Yes, yes." Elder Song's eyes widened, and he murmured, who knows if she's the real Yiliangchen? The mystical heaven orb can't be given to her. Suddenly, he made up his mind, and his cultivation erupted, and he pounced at Mu Yen. Let me keep the mystical heaven orb for now. However, before Elder Song could touch Mu Yen, Sun Yuanzhou had already waved his sword. Elder Song was only at level 1 of leaving aperture, while Sun Yuanzhou was already at tribulation passing. This sword strike, with only sword energy, directly knocked Elder Song to the ground. Elder Song crashed into a pillar, and he was dizzy at first, then he screamed. His right hand, which was about to snatch the mystical heaven orb, was sent flying. He looked at Sun Yuanzhou with shock and fear, and his body couldn't help but tremble. Kong Yuanzhou, what are you doing? Yu Tsuanjin shrieked, things have always been suspicious. Elder Song wanted to take back the dark heaven bead for safekeeping and give it to Mayan after confirming her identity. What's wrong with that? How could you be so vicious as to chop off Elder Song's arm? What are your intentions? Kong Yuanzhou sneered, Chu Tianyu doesn't have the ability to obtain the mysterious heaven pearl, he isn't Yiliangchen. Young Miss June obtained the profound heaven bead and did not suffer from any backlash. This naturally proves that she is Yiliangchen. What's there to doubt about? Holding his broken arm, Yu Tsuanjin glanced at Chu Tianyu and Elder Song. All of a sudden, his eyes were filled with viciousness and his face twisted. If he could not obtain the mysterious heaven bead today, he would not be able to complete the Marquis's instructions. His fate would be even more miserable than death. Rather than that, he might as well go all out. All of a sudden, Yu Tsuanjin raised his hand and grabbed at Qilin and the members of Carefree Squad. In the blood slaughter sword formation, the members of the Carefree Squad had long since trained their reflexes to dodge danger at any time, so they quickly dodged. But the Qilin Squad was not so lucky. Duan Wenbin, Chu Yuanlei, and Murong Shui were the strongest among them, so they barely managed to dodge. But the others were all wrapped around the neck by a black steel whip in Yu Tsuanjin's hand, and dragged directly in front of him. Give me the mysterious heaven bead, or I'll make sure that these brats of the Qilin Squad die without a corpse. Chapter 2088. The desperate blow of Master Ho and his team, too. Yu Tsuanjin's usually gentle and elegant face twisted crazily. He tightened the steel whip in his hand, and the Qilin team immediately wailed in pain. These Qilin team are the chosen ones of the big families. If they die, the big families and sects will never let it go, and the soaring dragon will be finished. Make your choice. Do you want the lives of these brats or the dark heaven bead? Yu Tsuanjin's move was out of everyone's expectation. Zhou Daoi and the others were livid and incredulous. Even Sun Yuanzhou frowned. Yu Tsuanjin, do you know what you are doing? Giving the dark heaven bead to the Lord of 6 Stars is an iron rule set by the Emperor. In the Soaring Dragon, the Emperor's order is the supreme rule, and no one can disobey it. Are you going to disobey the Emperor now? Emperor. Emperor. Ha ha ha. What Emperor? Don't be ridiculous. Yu Tsuanjin threw his head back and laughed. How can there be an emperor in this world? The Emperor disappeared 1,000 years ago and never showed up again. No one knows whether he is dead or not. Only you still follow these dead rules. Sun Yuanzhou's face suddenly darkened. He stared at Yu Tsuanjin, and the blade in his hand was faintly discernible. Yu Tsuanjin tightened the steel whip in his hand again, and Shui Huailu, who was at the periphery, immediately wailed like a pig being slaughtered. Blood gushed out from his neck. Shui Huailu was so scared that his tears and snot flowed out, and the stinky liquid flowed directly from his crotch. He shouted hysterically, I don't want to die, help me. Help me. Give him the dark heaven bead, Jun Mayan, do you hear me? Give him the dark heaven bead. Mayan sneered and did not even look at him. Hatred surged in Xue Huailu's eyes, and his face was ferocious. His hatred for her was far greater than that of Yu Zuanjin, who kidnapped him. But he could do nothing about Mayan, and could only look at Zhou Daoyi and the others. Dean, help me. I am the grandson of the Xue family. If I die, the Xue family will not let Soaring Dragon off. Su Yi, Shi Jingfeng, and the others also repeatedly begged for mercy. They also conveniently scolded Mayan for not helping when she was in danger. His cowardly face caused Duan Wenbin and the other two to frown. Their eyes were filled with shame and disgust. On the other hand, Zhu Chongliang and Jin Zhonghao clenched their teeth tightly and didn't utter a word. Zhou Daoyi, the vice deans, and the others all had conflicted expressions on their faces. Xue Huailu's and the others' identities were too special. If they really died in the Soaring Dragon sect, the various aristocratic families and sects would definitely not let the matter rest. They looked hesitantly at Sun Yuanzhou. Kong Yuanzhou sneered, Yu Zuanjin, kill me if you can, but in Longting, the emperor's order is everything. I, Kong Yuanzhou, will bear all the consequences. It never occurred to Yu Zuanjin that Kong Yuanzhou would not compromise even when he was in a life-and-death struggle. If Kong Yuanzhou had swallowed the Dark Heaven Orb, he would have accepted it. But he, an expert of the Green Sky role and a practitioner of the Crossing Tribulation stage, had risked everything to protect a powerless young girl. Yu Zuanjin was about to lose his mind. Kong Yuanzhou, have you lost your mind? For this woman, you don't even care about the safety of Soaring Dragon. Who the hell is this bitch? Did she seduce you? Is she your little lover? Is that why you are protecting her at all costs? Kong Yuanzhou's face suddenly changed. His anger was mixed with fear, and his body was trembling. He was even more agitated than when he saw Yu Zuanjin kidnap the members of the Qilin team. P.S. There is one more chapter. I'm still writing. Chapter 2089. Greetings to the Emperor, which? Emperor. You shut up. You're the crazy one, shut up. How could Miss June and I, how could? Everyone was a little dumbfounded. When had they ever seen Elder Kong speak so incoherently and lose his head out of fear? Yu Zuanjin, however, laughed sharply, ha ha ha, did I hit the nail on the head? So you're feeling guilty. Or rather, not your lover, but Lan Feng's. Lan Feng cursed angrily, you're slandering me. Yu Zuanjin, don't go too far. Ha ha ha, as early as the beginning of the Deer Cry banquet, I heard that this shameless woman hooked up with men everywhere. Not only did she hook up with the royal family of the Lan family, but also the people of the Seuss family were bewitched by her. That's why she sent gifts to a little-known team one after another at the beginning of the Deer Cry banquet. And you, Kong Yuanzhou, you arranged for a small team from the Blue Realm to live in the Tianlang Palace. That's the forbidden area of the entire Longting, where no one is qualified to set foot. But you specifically pointed out that Mayan should live there. Who would believe that you have no affair with this woman? I think you've long been bewitched by your little lover, and you've even forgotten that you're an elder of the Longting, haven't you? Yu Zuanjin was now like a cornered dog jumping over the wall, wishing he could bite at will and drag everyone down with him. However, his words caused many people present to reveal doubtful expressions. Indeed, the gifts of the Seuss and the royal family of the Lan family aside, Kong Yuanzhou's action of arranging for the carefree team to live in the Tianlang Palace was really too strange. In the Divine Elephant City, everyone knew that the Tianlang Palace was the forbidden area of the Longting, or rather, the Holy Land. Even Kong Yuanzhou dared not set foot there. The carefree team was just a small team from the Blue Realm. What qualifications did they have to live in the Tianlang Palace? Yu Zuanjin proudly looked at Kong Yuanzhou, who was trembling with anger, and his obscene and vicious eyes turned to Mayan. Mayan, I don't know if you're Yi Liangchen, the Lord of 6 Stars, but I admire your ability to seduce men. However, with your country-toppling beauty, you do have the capital to bewitch people. Yu Tsuanjin licked his lips. Why don't you let me have a taste of ecstasy? I guarantee that you'll be able to live a good life if you follow me. It'll be much better than following that boring old fart, Kong Yuanzhou. Mu Yan slightly narrowed her eyes, a cold light overflowing from the bottom of her eyes. The people from the Xiaoyao sect were furious. Their killing intent surged, and they didn't even want to say anything. They just wanted to kill this shameless bastard. However, before they could make a move, the entire chaotic tower suddenly shook violently. A pressure so powerful that it could suffocate people instantly exploded in the main hall. This pressure was like a raging storm, sweeping away all obstacles and unstoppable. Other than those who were at Leaving Aperture Realm, Advanced Leaving Aperture Realm, and those from the Xiaoyao sect, the others didn't even have the chance to make a sound before they fainted. Yu Tsuanjin suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. He could not even hold the steel whip in his hand and it fell to the ground. He raised his head in horror and shouted in a trembling voice, Who are you? Kong Yuanzhou's pupils suddenly shrank, and he abruptly knelt down. Zhou Daoyi and the vice deans, who were barely conscious, opened their mouths slightly and stared blankly at a dazzling light slowly bursting out from the center of the hall, which eventually condensed into a tall figure. When the light dissipated, an incomparably handsome face was revealed. However, the man clearly had a face that could turn all living things upside down, but the first thing that everyone noticed was not his face, nor was it his bottomless blue eyes. Instead, it was an overwhelming pressure that made people want to submit and not have the slightest desire to resist. Kong Yuanzhou's whole face was almost stuck to the ground, and he said in a trembling voice, Greetings, Emperor. The voice was like a heavy hammer that knocked on everyone's soul. Zhou Daoyi and the vice dean's knees softened, and they knelt down with a thud. There was only one sentence echoing in his mind, Emperor. Emperor. Which? Emperor. Di Mingju's eyes turned and fell on the completely stiff face of Yu Tsuanjin. The corners of his mouth hooked up into a cold smile like that of a demon from the 9th heaven. You want to let my fiancé have a taste of ecstasy? Why don't you tell me? Chapter 2090. All of a sudden, Yu Tsuanjin's body trembled and he even stopped breathing. His eyes rolled back, and his body fell limply to the ground. He muttered madly, Monarch. Monarch. Impossible. Impossible. How could this be? How could this be? Zhou Daoyi and Yu Tsuanjin were scared out of their wits. Even the people from the Xiaoyao sect were flabbergasted. Mo. Instructor Mo. Why is Teacher Mo here? Why does the elder of the Soaring Dragon sect call Teacher Mo Emperor? Although he's heard Han Yi and the others address Mo Ju as Jun Shang before. However, the people of the Xiaoyao sect didn't care at all. At this moment, they felt a tempestuous storm in their hearts, and they almost suspected that they were hallucinating. In the past 1,000 years, there had always been a legend on the road of cultivation that no one could surpass. At that time, the cultivation world was in a mess and wars were raging everywhere. Fiendish cultivators, spirit cultivators, and demonic beasts. The three sides wantonly slaughtered and fought, and a bloody and murderous aura pervaded the entire world. It was in such a chaotic world that a young man appeared. The man had a peerless appearance that could enchant all the women in the world, but he was as cold as an iceberg, and did not get close to women. At first, no one paid attention to the young man's appearance. But slowly, the man became stronger and stronger, and more people gathered under him. By the time the spirit cultivators, demonic cultivators, and demon beasts, who were addicted to war and blood, came to their senses, more than half of the cultivation continent was already under the man's control. For the first time in the cultivation world, there was a complete reshuffle. The man set the rules of the cultivation world. The weak could be prey to the strong, but the innocent could not be killed. They could be in opposing camps, but the mortals could not be harmed. Some refused to accept it, some violated it knowingly, and some disobeyed it on the surface. Of course, these people all had miserable endings. In just a few short years, the cruel and furious devil cultivators had either disappeared or remained silent. The spirit cultivators had no choice but to submit no matter how much they schemed against them. The demonic beasts even hid in the various mountain ranges, not daring to cause trouble again. The man had also established the 4 great academies: Soaring Dragon, Fengtian, Stellar, and Lingwu. He had planted one flame after another for the prosperity of the cultivators on this mainland. The cultivation world was restored to an unprecedented peace and tranquility. The mortals shed tears of gratitude, deeply engraved in their hearts. The spirit cultivators were sincerely convinced and followed him as their master. Everyone addressed this young man as Emperor. He was the only person in the history of the cultivation world who unified the entire continent. He was also the only person who had the qualifications to be addressed as the monarch. Junior sister. Yun Ruhan swallowed a mouthful of saliva. After a long while, her lips trembled as she asked with difficulty, "Teacher Mo, he, who exactly is he?" Mu Yan doesn't hear Yun Ruhan's voice at all. Her gaze was fixated on the man's handsome face, her heart pounding like a drum. "How long has it been since I last saw him?" It seemed like only a few months had passed, but she felt like years had passed. Mayan's emotions have always been restrained and rational. She also thought that her relationship with Di Mingju would always be like this. A thin stream flows for a long time. Take it calmly. Hold your hand and grow old together. But it was only at this moment that she realized that she could also be impulsive, yearn. Mu Yan slowly walked forward, her beautiful eyes like water. Her lips moved as she was about to speak. However, someone suddenly grabbed her waist and pressed her into his embrace. Chapter 2091. Yen, how many taboo have you committed these days? Ben Jun will settle the score with you in a moment. The man's deep voice whispered through gritted teeth in her ears. Mayan, who was just sad and sorrowful. If Bai Xia was here, he would definitely shout, "My dear Jun Shangdaran, did you take the wrong script? Shouldn't you hug the beauty and say, Yen, I miss you so much?" Then, a short absence makes the heart grow fonder, dry wood blazing fire. What's with settling the score with her? What score does she have to settle? Surely not, right? Di Mingju ignored Mayan's struggle and pressed her into his arms. His eyes once again looked at the few people who were still conscious in the hall. Zhou Daoi and the vice deans were still staring at the two, as if they were stupid. Sun Yuanzhou hurriedly raised his hand. "Idiot, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and pay your respects to the emperor." Which emperor? In Longting Academy, who could be called the emperor by Sun Yuanzhou, who had the qualifications to make the top 10 experts of Blue Sky list kneel, other than the invincible emperor who once swept across the entire Shuzhen continent. Zhou Daoi trembled all over and banged his head on the ground. Greet the emperor." The vice deans couldn't even speak properly and almost fainted. Di Mingju said lightly, "Now, do you still have any doubts about the identity of the Lord of 6 Stars? No. Absolutely not." The two of them shook their heads like a rattle drum. "God, it's the Emperor. It really is the legendary Emperor. The maker and controller of the highest rules of Longting Academy. So, the Lord of 6 Stars, Yi Liangchen, is not only an underage girl, but also the emperor's fiancée. Zhou Daoyi and the vice deans felt dizzy. No wonder Mayan was so powerful. Talisman, elixir, fighting, she could do anything. So she's the emperor's fiancée. A woman worthy of the emperor, of course, couldn't be an ordinary person. No wonder Sun Yuanzhou let Mayan and the carefree team live in Tianlang Palace. It turns out that this place originally belonged to her fiancé. Rounding it up, it belongs to Mayan. If she doesn't live here, who else is qualified to live here? At this moment, Zhou Daoyi felt extremely lucky. After June Mayan blew up several alchemy furnaces, he didn't go to her to punish her. Otherwise, he would be as dead as Yu Zuanjin. No. It's impossible for you to be the real emperor. You're a fake, you must be a fake. I don't want to die, I can't die. Ah. All of a sudden, Yu Zuanjin let out a hysterical roar and darted toward the door like an arrow leaving the bowstring. At this moment, he didn't care about anything else. He just wanted to escape. The primordial spirit in his body burned furiously, and it even floated out of his body. His speed was almost at the limit. With just one more step, the fresh air outside the chaotic tower would be right before his eyes. With just one more step, he would be able to fly and flee far away. A hopeful smile appeared on Yu Zuanjin's face. However, the next moment, his smile froze on his face. His body strangely froze in mid-air, as if he was being pulled by something, unable to move. Yu Zuanjin slowly lowered his head and looked at his own body. Faint blue lines crisscrossed on the surface of his body, and even his internal organs gradually emitted faint blue light. Ah! A scream was heard, but it stopped abruptly. Then, Yu Zuanjin's whole body suddenly exploded. Chapter 2092. But there's no flesh and blood, no bones, no soul. It's as if they've evaporated, completely disappearing from the world. The entire chaotic tower is in absolute silence. Di Mingju slowly retracts his hand. Under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, he clasps Mayan's hand and turns to leave. With just one step, he's already at the entrance of the chaotic tower. Di Jun. Little junior sister. Several people call out from behind. Mayan turns around and makes a gesture to the Xiaoyao sect people. I'll explain things to you later. But before she can finish speaking, she suddenly soars into the air and is carried by Di Mingju. There's a dangerous sneer on the man's handsome face. Ben Jun hasn't seen you for so long, and you're still in the mood to look at unrelated people? Damn heartless woman. What's even worse is that he's about to leave again. Mayan coughs lightly. They're my fellow disciples, and also your students. How can they be unrelated people? Seeing Di Mingju's face as dark as the night, she quickly adds, of course, all the people in the world added together are not as important as you. Mayan doesn't care about the onlookers behind her. She wraps her arms around his neck and says with a smile, Di Mingju, I missed you. The girl's voice is soft and graceful, her smile languid and light. It seems to be just perfunctory words, but those peach blossom eyes, as clear as water, are genuinely filled with longing for him, as well as the joy of seeing him. Jun Shangdaren's mood is a little better. Snorting, his eyes sweep over the Xiaoyao sect people, and he reluctantly evaluates, domain fully opened, barely qualified. As soon as his voice falls, he takes a second step, and the two instantly disappear from the world. Yun Ruhan and the others look at each other, and see the joy on each other's faces. Teacher Mo actually praised them. You say, barely qualified isn't a compliment. What a joke, such a cold and arrogant mentor Mo. It's already not easy for him to say, barely qualified. As for how Mentor Mo suddenly became the Shuzhen continent's legendary emperor, and how the emperor is little junior sister's fiancé, they can always get an explanation from little junior sister. As soon as they enter the sleeping quarters of Tianlang Palace, Ming-ju presses the person against the wall, grabs those pink and tender lips, and fiercely kisses them. Their breathing became unstable and their bodies felt like they were on fire. Only then does Ming-ju reluctantly release her, and tightly encircles the young girl in his arms. He really wanted to fuse her into his flesh and blood and bring her back to the Shushan continent so that they could never be separated. Mu Yan quietly leans against his chest, her fingers gently circling his chest. However, very quickly, Ming-ju firmly grips the dishonest little hand. The man's dark and husky voice seems to contain a monstrous flame. He whispers in her ear, Yen, although there's not much time left, if you continue to seduce me like this, Ben Jun will first make you unable to get out of bed before going back. There's no harm in that. Mu Yan. Ming-ju, where is your integrity? Where was the innocent man who didn't even know how to kiss and could only write, not betrothal gift, in a love letter? Cough. Have there been a lot of things happening in the polar domain recently? Mu Yan raises her head to look at the man, her eyes rippling with reluctance. Is there any danger? She already knows that the one standing here right now isn't Ming-ju himself, but his primordial spirit avatar. With Ming-ju's current cultivation, the primordial spirit avatar is already very solid, no different from a real person. Chapter 2093. However, there was a powerful spatial barrier separating the two continents. An essence soul avatar wouldn't be able to last long. The first few times she was in a daze in her dreams, she felt a familiar embrace her, but it quickly dissipated. That is Ming-ju. Mayan's words make Ming-ju's eyes sink. He recalled the turbulent boundary at the northern border of the polar domain and the abnormal number of poltergeist ghosts. However, nothing strange could be seen on his face. Instead, he leaned forward and said slowly, "It's just a trivial matter, how could it be dangerous?" Yen, are you doubting Ben Jun's strength? Mu Yan breathed a sigh of relief, but couldn't help but glare at him. Longting and 6 Stars Pagoda are yours, why didn't you tell me earlier? If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have tried so hard to prove Yi Liangshan's identity. Let Ming-ju directly give her the mysterious heaven bead and the chaotic tower. Ming-ju slightly narrows his eyes, and with a smile that isn't a smile, he looks at the little woman in front of him who has a confident and righteous face. Yen, I still haven't settled the accounts with you. Why are you questioning me? Settle accounts. What account? Ming-ju makes a grabbing motion in the air, and there's suddenly a stack of paper in his originally empty hand. The moment she saw the stack of papers, Mu Yan's face stiffens. On the paper, there were pictures of the Fu Sang team's charming naked men. Every one of them was as flirtatious as it could be, as sensual as it could be, and as fiery as it could be. Ming-ju gently shakes the paper in his hand. Yen, what did you promise me? Mayan dryly laughs. I didn't draw this, it was third brother who drew it. I didn't participate in the whole process, so what does it have to do with me? These papers were given to me by third senior brother to observe his painting skills. Yes, they were given to me by third senior brother. Ming-ju smiles, really? So, you haven't taken off other men's clothes or drawn other men? Mu Yan, no. Ming-ju stretched out his hand again. This time, only a piece of paper appeared in his hand. However, when she saw the drawing on the paper, Mu Yan's vision darkened. It was actually Longting's guard Zhang who had been put in a sack. Didn't she give this painting to Luoyu to burn and destroy the evidence? Luoyu, this unreliable person, had actually kept such crucial evidence. Wasn't he trying to get her killed? Ming-ju slowly approaches Mayan, stuffing the painting into her hands. this painting, was it also drawn by Chu Moli? The cold sweat on Mu Yan's forehead is about to fall. The corners of her mouth curled into a smile, thinking that she might as well just admit her mistake. In the next moment, someone squeezed in between the two of them. Immediately after, Di Mingju's thigh is hugged. A childish voice with a hint of coldness mixed with a hint of surprise shouted, "Daddy." Di Mingju expressionlessly lowers his head, looking at the little guy sandwiched between him and Mayan. Xiao Bao raised her head, her beautiful and exquisite little face flushed red. The blue eyes that are exactly the same as Di Mingju's are flickering, like butterfly wings gently flapping. Her eyes reflected her childlike admiration and longing for him. The lines on Di Mingju's face melt like ice, revealing a trace of gentleness. He reaches out to pick up the little guy, asking in a low voice, "Have you been cultivating well recently?" Xiao Bao obediently nods. That appearance of his is deadpan, but it's so cold and adorable that even a heart of stone would melt. However, when Di Mingju can't see, Xiao Bao quietly turns his head back and gives Mu Yan a look. Mu Yan beamed with joy, giving Xiao Bao a thumbs up. Chapter 2094. Baby, thank you so much for coming to save Nyangqin. However, just as Mayan's heart is half at ease, a hand suddenly presses on the back of her neck. Her whole body is buckled into Di Mingju's arms, and a punitive kiss falls on her earlobe. It's said to be a kiss, but it's actually a bite that's neither light nor heavy. Mayan cries out in pain, and her face turns red with anger. Di Mingju, this bastard, is he a dog? He actually bit her. Don't think that this is over. Yen, I'm not in a hurry. After we get married, we'll slowly settle these accounts one by one. Mayan stiffens. Is it too late for her to back out now and not be the mistress of the polar domain? Di Mingju looks at her faintly. If you dare to back out, Ben Jun will tie you to the bed, and you won't be able to get out of it for the rest of your life. Mayan, Xiao Bao blinks. I'm a child, I don't understand anything. After Mayan and Di Mingju leave, the chaotic tower directly banishes everyone out. Chu Tianyu staggers out of the tower, and sees two black-clothed people descending from the sky. They bow towards him. "Heir, the Marquis asks you to return." Although they're speaking with honorifics, the two of them faintly form a pincer attack, blocking all his paths of retreat. Chu Tianyu gives a self-deprecating laugh, and coldly says, "He's really impatient. Do you think I can escape from his palm? Let's go." The two immediately stand behind Chu Tianyu, one on the left and one on the right. One of them raises his hand, and a flying boat immediately hovers in the air. The man looks at Elder Song, who has a broken hand. Elder Song shivers, and trembles as he walks over. Just as Chu Tianyu is about to board the flying boat, he suddenly hears the voices of Duan Wenbin and the others behind him. "Captain! Boss Chu!" Chu Tianyu's body stiffens. He slowly turns around, and hoarsely says, "I'm sorry, I'm not qualified to be your captain. I've shamed the Qilin team." Murong Shue's eyes redden. She wants to rush forward and grab his lapel, but she's stopped by the two cultivators sent by the Dingwa Marquis. "Captain, why are you doing this?" Murong Shue uncontrollably shouts, "Is the mysterious heaven bead that important to you? So important that you don't even want your dignity and conscience? Are you really the captain we know?" Duan Wenbin also took a step forward and glanced at the two men in black. He gritted his teeth and said, "Captain, do you have any difficulties? Can you tell us? We can help you solve any problem." "That's right, Captain. Even if we're not strong enough, we still have our family. As long as you're our boss, you'll always be our boss." Murong Shue gritted her teeth and said slowly, "Chu Tianyu, if you say you've let us down, you should at least tell us why you did it. In my heart, the captain of the Kirin team is a man of indomitable spirit, not a shameless villain who impersonates others. Chu Tianyu closed his eyes and blinked back the bitterness and wetness in his eyes. If possible, I hope to be teammates with you again in my next life. After saying this, Chu Tianyu directly jumped onto the flying boat. Before Murong Shui and the others could react, the flying boat shot out like an arrow from a bow. Dingwa Marquis residence. Do you have the ability to say what you just said one more time? Chu Tianyu expressionlessly lowered his eyes and said indifferently, the mysterious heaven bead is in the hands of the real Yi Liangqin. We'll never be able to get it back. Chu Xinyan glared at him, his body trembling slightly because of his extreme anger. Chapter 2095. Suddenly, he lifted his leg and kicked Chu Tianyu's stomach. Chu Tianyu's entire body flew out and crashed into a pillar. The bones in his body let out a crackling sound. The pillar collapsed and hit his head. Blood splattered everywhere. Chu Tianyu spat out a mouthful of blood. Both his legs were broken. He couldn't even stand up. But he smiled brightly. Even if you kill me, you won't be able to get the mysterious heaven bead. You won't be able to get the Pill King's inheritance. Chu Xinyan's eyes were filled with rage. He took a while to suppress it. Fine. You won't be able to get the mysterious heaven bead. You should know who Yi Liangqin is, right? Chu Tianyu wiped the blood off his mouth and smiled mockingly. I swore an oath not to say it. Even if I could say it, I wouldn't tell you. You. Chu Xinyan's eyes widened. Then, he smiled coldly. Good. Very good. Looks like your wings have hardened. Resisting me like this, you're probably already prepared for what will happen to you and your mother. Chu Tianyu's face paled. His eyes were filled with pain. Mother, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't protect you anymore. But rather than living like this, it's better to die. Chu Xinyan ignored Chu Tianyu. He looked at Elder Song, who was trembling. He won't say Yi Liangqin's identity. You won't say it either, right? No, no. How would I dare to hide it from Marquis? Elder Song stammered. Before the mysterious heaven bead was formed, Yi Liangqin made us all swear an oath not to reveal any information about him. But, he didn't know that a mere gold core cultivator's oath with us leaving aperture cultivators can't really bind us. As he spoke, he looked at Chu Xinyan. Marquis, you don't need to be angry at the Crown Prince. As long as you know Yi Liangqin's identity, you won't have to worry about not getting the mysterious heaven bead. Chu Xinyan's eyes sharpened. Speak. Who is Yi Liangqin? Yi Liangqin is. Elder Song's face froze as soon as he said that. Then, the flattery on his face turned into fear and shock. No, no, no. Don't. Marquis, save me, save. Before he could finish his sentence, a loud bang came from his body. Then, blood and flesh splattered everywhere, and broken bones scattered all over the ground. It was Elder Song's body that exploded. Faintly, an old voice reverberated in the void. Those who violate the 6 stars order shall be executed. The room was deathly silent. The veins on Chu Xinyan's forehead throbbed violently. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, Chu Tianyu burst into unbridled laughter. This laughter caused Chu Xinyan's anger to boil. In the next moment, he had already appeared in front of Chu Tianyu and fiercely stomped his head into the ground. The pain of his skull shattering made Chu Tianyu wail in pain. Tears mixed with blood flowed from his eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. However, there was still a twisted smile on his face. When the 6 stars order is issued, no spirit cultivator can defy it. Even if you kill me, even if you shatter my primordial spirit and search my soul, you still won't get anything. Father, you will never know who Yi Liangqin is, and you will never be able to obtain the mysterious heaven pearl. Chu Xinyan took a deep breath, and the monstrous anger on his face slowly receded. He withdrew the foot that was stepping on Chu Tianyu's face. He took out a handkerchief and slowly wiped off the blood that splashed on his body before saying faintly. Chapter 2096. It seems that you've really grown up. I can't help but admire your courage and insight today. I like you even more now. Chu Xinyan takes out a new pair of black gloves and puts them on his old bark-like wrinkled hands. He leans down and grabs Chu Tianyu's chin, forcing him to raise his head. You should be very clear. What will happen to a child who is loved by father? Oh, that's right, there's also your mother. She has sat in the position of the marquis for too long. Where to send her next, father needs to think about it. Chu Tianyu's body suddenly trembles and he suddenly yells, Chu Xinyan, you're not a human. What do you want to do to my mother? Chu Xinyan, she has loved you for so many years, how can you treat her like this? Chu Xinyan has a smile on his face, seemingly very satisfied with his current performance. After a long time, he narrows his eyes and says, if you want me to let your mother go, it depends on your performance. Don't say that father didn't give you a chance. Father will give you another 7 days. Within 7 days, if you can tell Father Yi Liangqin's identity, your mother will still have a way to live. Otherwise, Father seems to remember that Lu Yu has been interested in your mother's beauty for a long time. Why don't father send your mother over? Chu Tianyu's pupils suddenly shrink and his body trembles like a sieve. At the same time, he feels an indescribable nausea, making him unable to stop himself from vomiting. Who is Lu Yu? He is Chu Xinyan's most powerful confidant, but he is also an out-and-out devil. He takes pleasure in torturing and degrading women. Chu Tianyu has seen with his own eyes that Lu Yu peels off the skin of a young girl. Feng Yu gave Leng Yuyao to Lu Yu. The next day, Leng Yuyao ran out crying for help. However, a few days later, when Chu Tianyu saw her again, this once sinister and greedy woman has become a walking puppet. Living a life worse than death, purgatory on earth, this is the fate of those women who were given to Lu Yu. And Chu Xinyan actually wants to give his mother, the Marquis of the Dingwa Manor, to Lu Yu to abuse and play with. Chu Tianyu almost wants to vomit out all his internal organs. Tears of blood slowly flow down his cheeks. In the Tian Mo Qin space. There's no one playing the Tian Mo Qin, and it's constantly making chaotic sounds. Qi Huang nervously watches the changes in the Tian Mo Qin. Mu Yan and Xiao Bao's sighs, one big and one small, come to his ears. Sigh. Qi Huang angrily says, the Tian Mo Qin is currently absorbing the mysterious heaven bead, what are you sighing about at such an important moment? Mayan rolls her eyes at him, and says with some flagging interest, can't I miss my fiancé? Xiao Bao pursed his lips and said seriously, Xiao Bao misses daddy, can't I? 7 Brilliance felt as though he had received a 10,000 critical hits. How he wished he could stomp the two of them into the ground. Di Mingju has only appeared here as a primordial spirit avatar. He can't stay for long, plus the polar domain situation is critical. Therefore, the family of 3 did not spend much time together. Jun Shangdaren's unwilling, or perhaps it should be said that his dissatisfied figure slowly dissipates. Mu Yan and Xiao Bao anxiously waited for him to come, but in the end, they didn't even say a few words before he left. Of course, they were unhappy. That was why the scene just now happened. However, playing around is just playing around. Mayan quickly gets up and walks over to the Tian Mo Chin. Whether the Tian Mo Chin can level up, whether she can advance to the 7th rank of the Shin musician, is very important to her. Chapter 2097. Not long after, the Tian Mo Chin's automatic sound slowly fades away. The radiance of the zither also gradually faded. Mu Yan nervously stares at the Tian Mo Chin, waiting for its second stage of change. However, 1 breath passed, 2 breaths passed, 15 minutes passed. Mayan points at the Tian Mo Chin, then looks at Qi Shao Huang. This time when the Tian Mo Chin was repaired, why wasn't the movement as big as last time? The last time the Tian Mo Chin was restored was in the Yanwu continent, in that Wang Ye's mansion. At that time, her moon's spiritual root was stimulated. It was said that even the cultivation continent and the cultivation continent were alarmed by the phenomenon. The Tian Mo Chin's appearance has also changed from its original worn-out appearance to its current appearance that can barely be seen. But this time, the Tian Mo Chin doesn't have the slightest change. Mayan walks over, picks up the Tian Mo Chin, looks around, and gently plucks the strings. Indeed, it was exactly the same as before. She suspiciously asks, I can already break through the bottleneck of the 6th level of Shin musician. You're thinking too much. Qi Huang rolls his eyes. The Tian Mo Chin hasn't completed its 2nd advancement. What? Mayan glares at him. Didn't you say that the mysterious heaven bead is the material to repair the Tian Mo Chin? Otherwise, she wouldn't have to risk her life to take back the profound heaven orb. It's not bad to sell it for a good price. She had to support a big family now, so she was really poor. Qi Huang sneers. This deity said that the mysterious heaven bead is the material to repair the Tian Mo Chin, but didn't say that as long as the mysterious heaven bead is present, the Tian Mo Chin's 2nd advancement can be completed. Mu Yan frowns. What do you mean? The Tian Mo Chin's 2nd advancement is the restoration of the Chin's body. The body of an ancient zither is divided into the crown and horn, the zither waist, the zither shoulders, the zither neck, the heaven and earth pillars, and so on. The mysterious heaven bead fuses with the Tian Mo Chin, but it can only repair 1/3 of the zither's body. Of course, it's impossible for any changes to occur. Mayan is a little dumbfounded. Then how many things do I need to repair the Tian Mo Chin? Where are the remaining materials? I don't know, 7 Brilliants said very irresponsibly. You don't know? Mayan squints at him. Qi Shao Huang, are you really the spirit of the Tian Mo Chin? Don't tell me it's some wild monster in disguise. He was clearly an artifact spirit, but he knew nothing about his true self. Was there such an idiotic artifact spirit in this world? Qi Huang flies into a thunderous rage. The Tian Mo Chin's restoration materials are all dropped from the Chin's body. How would Ben Zun know what they become after they drop? Moreover, the materials dropped by the Tian Mo Chin are all rare treasures in the world. In order to prevent others from coveting them, they will automatically restrain their aura. This deity can't leave the space, so it's only natural that I can't sense it. Jun Mayan, this bastard, actually dared to doubt him. Bastard, bastard. How infuriating. Mu Yan turned a blind eye to Qi Shao Huang's outburst, but frowned with a headache. He had only repaired 1/3 of it, but he didn't even know what the remaining materials were or where they were. The cultivation continent was so big. Where was he going to start looking? Mother. Just as she was feeling vexed, Xiaobao's voice suddenly sounded in her ears. Mother, look at this map. Mu Yan turns around and sees Xiaobao holding a map in his hand. Mu Yan was still very familiar with this map. It was left behind by Bailey Yinlu at that time for her to search for materials to repair the Tian Mo Chin. When she was in the Yenwu continent, she had indeed completed the first advancement of the Tian Mo Chin through the coordinates on the map. Chapter 2098. However, after coming to the Yenwu continent, Mayan also checked the map, but she discovered that there were no coordinates at all, nor was there any response. However, the map that little Bao brought over was slightly different. They see that the map that was originally completely in line with the Yenwu continent has now completely changed. Is this a map of the cultivation world? Mayan is startled, and quickly moves closer to take a look. Hey, Qi Huang, come look, there's a circle on this map. Qi Huang was still throwing a tantrum, grunting and ignoring her. Mu Yan directly grabs his collar and pulls the brat over. Before Qi Huang explodes in anger, she strokes his head. Be good, don't make trouble. Quickly help me see if the remaining restoration materials for the Tian Mo Chin are here. The blue veins on Qi Huang's forehead throbbed. He wanted to curse out loud. I'm a dignified ancient artifact spirit, is my head something you can casually touch? At the same time, he felt that this feeling was very novel. He had experienced the river of time for such a long time, and he had seen all kinds of people in the world, but there had never been anyone like Jun Mayan who treated him without any ill feelings, without reverence or alienation. Qi Huang snorts awkwardly, looking at the map in Mayan's hands. After a long while, he says, the remaining materials for the Tian Mo Chin are in this circle. According to Qi Huang, the people of the spirit music sect have been persecuted and hunted by the entire Xuxian continent. The fluctuation of the Tian Mo Chin's breath has already been captured by some of the Xuxian continent's refining sects. If he carries the complete Tian Mo Chin, even if he escapes to the Yenwu continent, he would still be discovered very quickly. As a result, Bailey Yinlu and the others had no choice but to strip out a portion of the Tian Mo Chin's materials that would expose their aura and throw them in various places in the three realms. The material that can expose its aura is naturally the most powerful and precious part of the Tian Mo Chin. As a result, without these materials, the Tian Mo Chin is weakened by more than 90%. And if a Shin musician wants to display their full strength, the Tian Mo Chin is indispensable. The map that Bailey Yinlu had left behind was embedded with complicated glyphs. As long as there is spiritual energy, it can automatically sense the location of the Tian Mo Chin's materials. In the beginning, there was no reaction because the materials on the cultivation continent were too scattered and their auras were too weak. Now that the mysterious heaven orb had returned to its original body, the map finally sensed the location of the remaining materials. However, Mayan frowns and says gloomily, if Bailey Yinlu wants to give us the coordinates, then just give us the coordinates. What's the meaning of drawing a circle? A small circle on the map was hundreds of kilometers wide. Furthermore, this circle covered the Woodfern Sea and the Pilyang mountain range, as well as the azure blue world and the purple cloud world. If she wanted to find a small material in such a large area, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Qi Huang also disdainfully said, the people from godly musicians are really a bunch of trash. They're being chased like stray dogs. They can't even accurately locate the repair materials. Mu Yan glanced at him with a smile that was not a smile. Qi Shao Huang, your tone is really big. At least Bailey Yinlu gave me a ring. What about you? Not even a circle. Bastard. Seven Brilliance stomped his foot in anger. If I could leave the space, I would have already found these materials. Mu Yan fiddled with the strings and put away the map. No matter what, at least he had a rough idea. There is a reaction between the Tian Mo Chin and the restoration materials. When the time comes, she will take the Tian Mo Chin and circle around these places 8 or 10 times. She doesn't believe that she won't be able to find it. As for the space that Qi Huang mentioned, Mu Yan shakes her head. Chapter 2099. Not to mention that Su Zi, the only one who can bear the 7 brilliant soul, is now in seclusion. Even if there is Su Zi, there is no way to let the 7 brilliant soul possess her for a long time. Just then, something on Mu Yan's body suddenly lights up. Jade Key. Mu Yan's eyes light up all at once. That damned so-called upgrade is finally over. She can enter Tianguang Ruins. Welcome back to Tianguang Ruins, first host. Mu Yan finds that when her divine sense enters Tianguang Ruins this time, what she sees when she opens her eyes is not the reincarnation square. Instead, it's the endless chaos she saw when she first entered Tianguang Ruins. The familiar mechanical voice echoes in her ears. She doesn't know why, but this time, Mu Yan feels that this voice seems to have a trace of human emotion. Mu Yan calms down, and the scenery in front of her slowly becomes clear. In the bottom of her eyes, the appearance of a teenager is reflected. The teenager looks about 11 or 12 years old, and is dressed in a very strange costume. The upper body is a thin white shirt, and the outside is covered with a black vest. The lower body is a pair of black pants. What's even more strange is the teenager's hair, which is so short that it reveals his pointed ears. A pair of silver eyes flickered as it looked at her. It was indescribably adorable. Mu Yan has never seen this kind of attire in the martial arts stage or the Shushan continent, but there is an inexplicable sense of familiarity. She hesitates, little Tian. The teenager immediately smiles and throws himself into Mu Yan's arms, hugging and rubbing against her. First host, little Tian misses you so much. Mu Yan is at a loss. Little Tian, why do you always call me first host? Did you recognize the wrong person? The teenager raises his head and sticks out his tongue at her. I won't recognize the wrong person. The first host's aura is exactly the same as before, and his embrace is also soft and warm. Little Tian likes it the most. It's a pity that little Guang and little Su are still asleep and can't see the first host. Hee, they must be envious of me. Mu Yan looks at the teenager's bright silver eyes. Little Tian, what is the first host? Little Tian blinks. I can't say it because of the rules. First host, you will know later. Mu Yan still wants to say something, but little Tian has already said, oh, Master is calling little Tian is leaving. First host, welcome back to Tianguang Ruins. After saying that, without waiting for Mu Yan to ask any more questions, the youth's figure had already completely disappeared. Master. Who was the owner? Furthermore, he hadn't even asked him about the Medicine King's inheritance. Mayan is both annoyed and amused at the same time. Her divine sense moves and she appears on the reincarnation square. Young martial uncle is also in the Tianguang Ruins. Mu Yan muttered and sent a message to Luo Yunxiao. Luo Yunxiao still didn't respond. She didn't take it to heart and strolled toward Lousy World's #1 shop. While walking, Mu Yan takes out a glittering golden token. A large, medicine, character was carved in the center of the token. That was right, this was the Medicine King token. But it was just a token. Mu Yan tries to use her divine sense and spiritual power to activate it, but the Medicine King token doesn't respond at all. She suddenly remembered what little Tian had said when he was announcing the rules. In the end, the one who obtains the Medicine King token and activates it will be the true successor of the Medicine King. So, getting the Medicine King token wasn't enough, and he still had to activate it. How could he activate it? Those glass beads suddenly flash before her eyes, and Mu Yan's eyes brighten. Chapter 2100. Xiaobao had obtained the 4-colored glass beads after he triggered the Medicine King's inheritance and passed the 3 tests with her. And on the Medicine King token, there were exactly 4 grooves. Mu Yan is about to take out the glass bead when she suddenly hears a familiar angry voice. I repeat, we are not going back to the upper 3 districts. Even if I have to go back to the upper 3rd district, I will never go back to your city. Just give up. It was Easy Bro's voice. Mu Yan looked up and saw that many people were surrounding the old man is number 1 in the world shop. At the very front were more than 10 Tianguang city enforcers who were dressed in black uniforms with gold on them. The leader of the group was a man in a loose robe. He was an old acquaintance. He was the Jiang city supervisor of the north city of the upper 3 districts of Tianguang ruins. He was the one who had chased the old master's number 1 under the heaven store out of the Tianguang ruins. Hearing the angry roar of the carefree brother, the manager of Rivertown was unperturbed. There was not a trace of guilt or annoyance on his face. There was only arrogance, as if he was giving alms. I advise you to calm down and think carefully before you speak. In the upper, middle, and lower districts of Tianguang ruins, the authority of the district administrators and urban management will decrease with each level. To put it bluntly, the district administrators of the 3 middle districts and the 3 lower districts are under the jurisdiction of the 3 upper districts. Jiang City's governor chuckled, the upper 3 districts' governor is my uncle. As long as I say the word, not to mention the upper 3 districts, you won't even be able to survive in the middle 3 districts and the lower 3 districts. Elegant Bro and North Sunflower Xiang Wan's faces were ashen. The surrounding Liang Chen's army was also filled with righteous indignation, unable to restrain their anger. You were the one who drove God Yi out of the upper 3 zones, and now you want us to go back with a wave of your hand. What do you take us for? Isn't it just because Almighty Ye's pills and talismans are selling well, and he has become the king of medicine's direct disciple, so he wants a piece of the pie? Although Great God Yi hasn't appeared recently, he has left a lot of talismans for sale. Now, most of the cultivators had gone to the middle and lower districts, while only a few people went to the upper districts, which used to be the most lively. That's why this son of a bitch got anxious. Just as the man had said. After receiving the benefits from the Flowing Moon School, the supervisor of Jiang City also thought that Yi Liangqin would never be able to rise again. Therefore, he expelled the lousy is the best in the world from the upper 3 zones. Unexpectedly, Yi Liangqin, who was being suppressed by the Flowing Moon sect, actually counterattacked. He was able to draw something as heaven-defying as the water element pill refining talisman. All of a sudden, the cultivators who had been swarming in the Flowing Moon Pill Palace all ran to the old man's number 1 under the world store in the middle and lower 3 districts. As for the Flowing Moon Pill Palace, it was completely deserted overnight. Even the Flow Moon sect had become a thing of the past and had completely fallen to a 3rd or 4th-rate sect. If that was all, the Jiang city governor would not be so anxious. After all, there were only a few cultivators who wanted to buy talismans. The upper 3 districts were the highest level places in Tianguang ruins, so the human traffic and transactions were the highest. However, right after that, Yap Liangqin passed the almost impossible test and became the only inheritor of the King of Medicine. This time, the entire Tianguang ruins really exploded. The successor of the Medicine King. That means that in the future, my number 1 shop in the world will not only sell talismans. There will also be elixirs. And Yi Liangqin was an omnipotent demon. He could become the master of Clear Sky Sect, slaughter the Dragon Ascension 6 rolls, and draw the barrier-breaking talisman that had never been seen before. How could the elixirs he refined be ordinary? Therefore, 1/3 of the cultivators in the upper 3 districts who had already run away ran away again. Chapter 2101. This time, the Jiang city manager could not sit still. The decrease in the flow of people and transactions in the upper 3 districts meant a decrease in his income and the prestige of his uncle. How could the Jiang city manager accept this? However, even if he regretted it, the Jiang city manager's attitude was still condescending. He felt that it was already a great honor for him to invite Yell Yongqin and Laozi back to the world's #1 shop. If these people still dared to complain, they would be ungrateful. Jiang Chuanrong took the wine cup from his subordinate, swirled it gently, and tasted it with a look of enjoyment. This wine was called White Autumn Dew, and it was a spiritual wine unique to Tianguang ruins. This spiritual wine could be used directly on one's soul, giving one an incomparably wonderful taste. It was a delicacy that many cultivators yearned to taste. Of course, the price of White Autumn Dew was also extremely high. It was just a spiritual pleasure, but one had to pay the price of 100 superior-grade crystals. Ordinary people could not afford it, nor could they bear to taste it. However, Jiang Chuanrong was different. As a city enforcement officer in the upper 3 districts of Tianguang ruins, he had a fixed income of crystals every month. Even the amount of crystal stones that those cultivators and big sects secretly offered to him as bribes was already an astronomical figure. How would these ants in the middle 3 districts and lower 3 districts understand the power of a district manager and city enforcement officer in Tianguang ruins? Just like these lowly scums, they would never understand how luxurious and wonderful it was to casually taste White Autumn Dew. Jiang Chuanrong sighed in his heart, then looked at Elegant Bro with a smile. I admit that I was impulsive when I chased you out of the upper 3 districts. But now, I have come to invite you personally. Isn't that enough? I advise you to accept it obediently. Otherwise, if things get ugly, you might not even be able to open your shop. Don't blame me for not reminding you. Bei Kuei Xiang Wan and Elegant Bro trembled with anger. The hot-tempered old Ma and Sister Hua wanted to rush up and slap this shameless fellow. However, before they could move, they were held back tightly by someone. Are you crazy? The law enforcement officers of Tianguang ruins are supreme beings. You can offend anyone but them. Otherwise, you will die miserably. There was an iron rule in the Tianguang ruins, and that was no real fighting. In particular, they were not allowed to use spiritual power to fight. Otherwise, they would immediately suffer the punishment of being electrocuted. However, the police were different. They were given special rights to use force in the Tianguang ruins in order to maintain order and manage the users. Therefore, in Tianguang ruins, no matter how powerful a cultivator was, they could offend anyone but the law enforcers. Jiang Chuanrong heard the discussions around her and snorted softly. He had long since gotten used to the feeling of being high and mighty, of being able to control the life and death of others. Clearing her throat, Jiang Chuanrong continued, "Where is Yap Liangqin? Let her come out and pay her respects to me. I have a piece of great news to tell her." Everyone present was Liang Chen's army. It didn't matter if he was insulted, but Jiang Chuanrong asked Ye Liangqin to greet him with such a disrespectful attitude. Everyone was about to explode. Who do you think you are? How dare you ask Goddess Yi to worship you? Old Ma roared in anger. The scar on his face twitched uncontrollably. He was about to fight Jiang Chuanrong. But before he could finish, he heard a clear and melodious female voice from the crowd. Chapter 2102. Manager Jiang, what good news do you have for me? Why don't you tell me now? There was a moment of silence inside and outside the shop. Everyone's eyes turned to the person who spoke. Following that, a thunderous roar erupted. Guru Yi is here. My God, it's been so many days and there's still no news of Guru Yi. I thought she was seriously injured in the nourishment stage. Guru Yi is fine, that's great. Bei Kuei Xiang Wan rushed over joyfully. Her eyes were a little red, and she grabbed her sleeve and refused to let go. "Miss, you're fine. It's great that you're back." Mu Yan reached out and touched her head, then smiled gently at Liang Chendajuan. "Don't worry, how could anything happen to me? I've made you all worry." Bei Kuei Xiang Yuan nodded heavily. Miss is the invincible Guru Yi. How could a mere medicine king's assessment hurt you?" Everyone around Lao Zi's #1 shop was surrounding the girl with a delicate and pretty face. All the light between heaven and earth seemed to converge at that point. Everything else paled in comparison. Even the enforcers under Jiang Chuanrong were looking at Mu Yan with fervent and adoration. That was the Lord of 6 Stars, the Medicine King's successor, Yi Liangqin. In the Shuzhen continent where the weak were prey to the strong, who didn't worship the strong? Who didn't worship the strong? Jiang Chuanrong's hand that was holding the wine glass tightened, and there was a hint of displeasure in her eyes. It was the first time in Tingguang ruins that he was ignored like this. Jiang Chuanrong snorted coldly, then raised his voice. "Yi Liangqin, since you've come out, then follow me back to the upper 3 zones and talk about the cooperation." Mu Yan's gaze shifted from Liang Chendajuan, who was concerned about her, to the hawk-eyed, long-bearded man in front of her. She couldn't help but sneer inwardly. The cultivators of Tingguang ruins could adjust their appearance. Jiang Chuanrong's current appearance wasn't that of a handsome guy, but he still had a sage-like demeanor and handsome features. Unfortunately, he was a headstrong and greedy idiot deep down in his bones. Although he was thinking of this, he did not show it on his face. "I wonder how Jiang City's governor would like to cooperate." Jiang Chuanrong has a card up his sleeve. The aloof Mu Yan strokes his long beard and leisurely says, "Lao Zi is the world's #1 shop. You can still open it in the upper 3 districts. Moreover, I can also move the location of your shop to the most prosperous area in the North City." Mayan has a smile that isn't a smile. "What are the conditions?" Jiang Chuanrong smiled slightly. Miss Yi is really an understanding person. As everyone knew, the reason why Lao Zi's #1 shop was kicked out of the upper 3 zones was because of its fake popularity points and the poor quality of the talismans it sold. This was also a stain that was neither too big nor too small. If I let you go back for no reason, it will have a negative impact on the reputation of my upper 3rd district. So, what I mean is, if the #1 shop in the world moves to the Concentrating Mind Pavilion, the biggest shop in the north of the upper 3 districts, you can still sell your magic charms and elixirs, but you have to pay 50% of the income to the Concentrating Mind Pavilion as their guarantee fee. What do you think? As soon as he said this, everyone was dumbfounded. All of them were shocked by Jiang Chuanrong's shamelessness. At that time, he obviously received benefits from the Flowing Moon sect, slandered Lao Zi's #1 shop in the world, and even drove Yi Liangqin out of the upper 3 districts. Now, he actually wants to make the slander true. Chapter 2103. Not only that, but he also wants a share of the profits. He is shameless enough to ask the world's #1 shop to merge with Ningxin Pavilion and pay half of the income. Why doesn't he just rob? Who doesn't know that Ningxin Pavilion is owned by Jiang Chuanrong's relative? Most of the income of Ningxin Pavilion goes into Jiang Chuanrong's pocket every year. Now he wants to merge the world's #1 shop into Ningxin Pavilion. His intentions are clear. Bei Kuei, Xiang Yuan, and Elegant Brother are shaking with anger. Mu Yan, however, laughed softly. She stops them and chuckles. "What if I don't agree?" Jiang Chuanrong's face darkens. "Yi Liangqin, do you know what you are talking about? The upper 3 districts of Tianguang ruins are the noblest and most authoritative places. I am the city manager of the upper 3 districts, and my uncle is the district manager of the upper 3 districts. Strictly speaking, the middle 3 districts are under my uncle's jurisdiction. So, even the district manager of the middle 3 districts will not protect you. Then, Jiang Chuanrong seems to think of something and sneers. The district manager of the lower 3 districts is really bold. He dares to stop me from entering. He said that since you are opening a shop there, he is in charge and I have no right to interfere. Ha, what a joke. I think he is going to lose his position as the district manager of the lower 3 districts. Jiang Chuanrong's eyes were burning with excitement. She said loudly, if you go against me here, it's equivalent to going against the rules of the entire Tianguang ruins. Yi Liangchen, think about it carefully. Don't lose your shop in the end. Screw your resisting me is equivalent to resisting the rules of the entire Tianguang ruins. Mu Yan rolls her eyes inwardly. Does little Tian know that this guy is so arrogant? In fact, when he was driven out of the upper 3 districts, little Tian said that he must suggest to the master to remove Jiang Chuanrong. But he just happened to be in time for the Medicine King's assessment, so he forgot about it. Mu Yan really thinks that if she doesn't go and settle accounts with Jiang Chuanrong. Instead, he wants a foot after taking an inch and bullies her. Mu Yan calls out to little Tian in her mind, but there is no response. It seems that he is still being summoned by the master. However, she is really curious about who is little Tian's current master. While he was thinking, he heard Jiang Chuanrong's impatient voice again. Yap Liangqin, have you thought it through? Will you follow me back to the upper 3 districts and join the Concentrating Heart Pavilion, or will you not be able to survive in Tianguang ruins from now on? Liang Chen's army was about to go crazy from anger. Some of them couldn't help but clench their fists and punch Jiang Chuanrong fiercely. However, they did not dare to use their spiritual power, so they were quickly sent flying by the law enforcers beside Jiang Chuanrong. They lay on the ground and could not get up. Jiang Chuanrong smiles at Mayan, revealing a proud expression. Lord of 6 stars. Successor of the Medicine King. There were no more kings under Yi Liangqin. Ha! So what? No matter how powerful he was still in the real world. In the Tianguang ruins, Jiang Chuanrong was the true king. Anyone who dared to resist him would die. Mu Yan's face darkens. He dared to attack Liang Chen's army right in front of her. Are you tired of living? Mu Yan's jade-like, lustrous hands gently pinched together, the joints emitting cracking sounds. Jiang City's administrator, right? The corner of the girl's mouth slowly raises, revealing a disdainful and dangerous smile. Didn't anyone teach you that you will end up miserably if you behave atrociously in someone else's territory? Chapter 2104. Jiang Chuanrong was stunned. She didn't know what he was talking about. The next moment, he felt a sharp pain on his face. At the same time, his entire divine soul shook violently, and he felt a burning pain. Jiang Chuanrong's whole body was sent flying, and she let out a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered in the air. When he landed on the ground, he raised his head and revealed his face, causing many people to laugh. Jiang Chuanrong's chiseled face had actually sunk in. The bridge of his nose was smashed into pieces, and a few of his teeth were missing. His original sage-like demeanor and imposing manner had now become a joke. However, the external injuries in the Tianguang ruins would heal very quickly. Jiang Chuanrong's face quickly returned to normal. However, he was still howling in pain. This was because Mu Yan's punch had used spiritual energy, and it had directly struck his divine soul. The pain in his divine soul was 100 times more intense than the pain in his body. Someone like Jiang Chuanrong, who had always lived like a prince, had never tasted it before. Snot and tears flowed down his face as he struggled to get up. At the same time, he let out a shrill roar, "You dare to hit me, you bitch, you dare to hit," bang. Jiang Chuanrong, who had yet to get up, was suddenly knocked to the ground by a figure that swept over like a whirlwind. A large foot stepped on his head, and with a thud, his face, which had just recovered, was stomped back into the ground. The weight of a tall and sturdy man pressed down on his face, causing his nose bone to make a cracking sound again. It was broken. June. Yi Liangqin, give me the crystal. The tall and sturdy man, Qi Shaohuang, rushed in front of Mu Yan and said anxiously, "Hurry, I need it urgently." Mu Yan looks at the fierce-looking man in front of her with a headache. "What the hell are you doing now?" "Don't worry about it. Anyway, I'm in urgent need of spar. Give it to me quickly. Otherwise, it will be too late." Mu Yan sighed. How much? His brat had been spoiled rotten. What else could he do? She could only spoil him. 10,000 top-grade crystals. Mu Yan's face changed greatly. 10,000 high-grade crystal stones. Qi Shaohuang, why don't you go rob someone? No. Qi Huang was so anxious that the beard on his face trembled. This sovereign. I really need it urgently, just give it to me. The corner of Mu Yan's mouth twitches. Was Qi Huang flirting with her? Although it was a rare sight for the artifact spirit to admit defeat. But the problem is, you're not a handsome young man now, nor a cute and adorable Tuanzi, but a burly man. This coquettish tone and manner gave her goosebumps all over her body. Okay? Mu Yan has no choice but to transfer 10,000 crystals to the 7 Brilliance Jade Key space. Bitch. Bastard. How dare you hit me? I'll kill you. Jiang Chuanrong, who finally got up, was about to go mad with anger. Taking out a sword from the Jade Key space, he ruthlessly thrusts it towards Mu Yan and Qi Huang. The Tianguang ruins, which usually had no spirit energy fluctuations, was now filled with surging spirit energy and overflowing killing intent. Although Jiang Chuanrong looked like an idiot, the Jiang family had been sitting in the position of the upper 3 districts for so many years. Even though Jiang Chuanrong was an idiot, she still managed to reach the leaving aperture realm thanks to the miraculous pill she received. If a leaving aperture realm cultivator were to use his spiritual energy to stab out, the might of the sword would definitely be incomparably shocking. Be careful, God Yi. The onlookers cried out in surprise. They wanted nothing more than to rush over and block that sword for their guru Yi. Chapter 2105. But the furious Jiang Chuanrong moves too fast. No one can react in time. Mu Yan's face also changes, and she's about to open her mouth to warn Qi Huang. But she sees Qi Huang turn his head and wave his large palm leaf-like palm. Bang! Jiang Chuanrong is sent flying along with his sword. Once again, he's slapped to the ground like a pancake. This time, he didn't even have the chance to scream. An ant dares to use a sword against this sage. Qi Huang snorts coldly. Without saying anything to Mu Yan, he runs away and disappears. Why? Why didn't the divine punishment befall on these two? Jiang Chuanrong shakily climbs up again. His face is as pale as paper, and his expression is close to insanity. Divine Soul Shock. Quickly send down the Divine Soul Shock. Hysterical roars resound all around, but everything is still quiet. What lightning strike, what punishment, there's no response at all. Mu Yan crosses her arms over her chest, calm and unruffled as she watches Jiang Chuanrong go crazy. The surrounding Liang Chen's army and passers-by are also dumbfounded. What's going on? Mu Yan and that burly man attacked Jiang Chuanrong just now. They clearly used spiritual power, and even injured Jiang Chuanrong's divine soul. But why didn't the divine soul shock fall? Many people remember the last time. Mu Yan also hit the steward of the Flowing Moon Pill House, but nothing happened. Moreover, they also heard the voice of the tool spirit of Tianguang Ruins, calling Mu Yan a special user. So, Great God Yi was also powerful and influential in Tianguang Ruins. Not a small fry that can be suppressed by any Tom, Dick, or Harry. Liang Chen's army gets excited one by one, and they look at Mu Yan with more and more worship. Jiang Chuanrong's throat is hoarse from shouting, but he only gets loud ridicule from the people around him, and looks at him like he's a clown. He closes his mouth, firmly clenches his molar teeth, and looks at Mu Yan with resentment. Yi Liangqin, do you think that if Tianguang Ruins doesn't send down the divine punishment, I can't do anything to you? Jiang Chuanrong screams, even if you can use spiritual power in Tianguang Ruins, so what? You're just a little gold core stage cultivator. Be it in Tianguang Ruins or the real world, in my eyes, you are just like an ant that I can casually trample to death. Ha ha ha. Jiang Chuanrong's words caused the expressions of many people in Liang Chen's army to change. Most of the enforcers in the upper 3 districts of Tianguang Ruins were above the nascent soul realm. Most of them were leaving aperture realm cultivators. No matter how talented Yap Liangchen was, he was still very young. He was only at the golden core stage. If they really fought each other, how could they be a match for this group of scum? Do it. All of you, attack. Jiang Chuanrong waved her hand fiercely at her subordinates. Beat this bitch until her soul scatters and she will never be able to reincarnate. The black-robed law enforcers looked at each other. They were a little hesitant, but they still took out their special weapons in the end. A golden chain. Injecting spiritual energy could turn it into a sword that could cut through iron as if it were mud. Circulating spiritual energy could turn it into a shackle. Jiang Chuanrong, on the other hand, was holding a halberd in his hand. At this moment, he was filled with hatred to the point of insanity. He completely disregarded the fluctuations that might be caused by the surging spiritual energy in the Tianguang Ruins as he attacked Mu Yan with bloodshot eyes. Great God Yi, watch out. Almighty Yi, get out of the way. I'll block him for you. One by one, Liang Chen's army shouted and rushed over, wanting to block in front of Mu Yan. Their cultivation was higher than Mu Yan's. At this moment, they couldn't care less about the fact that they were in Tianguang Ruins. They only thought that the person they followed and supported must not be harmed. Chapter 2106. When Jiang Chuanrong gave the order to attack just now, Mayan's expression didn't change. However, at this moment, he was astonished. All of you, get out of the way. You are not allowed to use your spiritual power. It wasn't that the rules of Tianguang Ruins had lost their effect. It was probably because little Tian was biased that it didn't work on her. However, once Liang Chen's army made a move, the consequences would be unimaginable. Mu Yan has never been so flustered before. Her body shot out like an arrow from a bow, quickly grabbing a few people and throwing them backwards. However, there were just too many of Liang Chen's soldiers rushing over to protect her. She couldn't stop them at all. In the air of the Middle 3 region, a huge amount of spiritual power was surging crazily. The Liangchen army had already conjured weapons in their hands, and they slashed towards Jiang Chuanrong and the others. In the sky, above the surging spiritual power, black clouds slowly condensed. Mayan's pupils violently contract. She's shocked and regretful, but she's powerless. In the next moment, there was a loud bang. Cries of pain and moans came from the surroundings. Mayan's hands are tightly clenched into fists, almost not daring to look at the miserable state of Liang Chen's army. Ha! Someone exclaimed, I'm fine. The lightning didn't strike me. How How did the law enforcement officers get killed? Yeah. I'm sure I used my spiritual power just now. When the thunder fell, I thought I was done for. Mayan abruptly comes back to her senses. Looking at the scene around her, she is also at a loss. Liang Chen's army was puzzled. They looked at each other and pinched each other. Then, they started laughing as if they had just survived a disaster. At their feet were Jiang Chuanrong and the enforcers. All of them were foaming at the mouth and convulsing. They looked extremely miserable. What was going on? The divine soul lightning strike landed on Jiang Chuanrong and the enforcer. Liang Chen's army is fine. Could it be that little Tian was helping her? But didn't little Tian say that it could only help within the loopholes of the rules? Mayan is puzzled when she suddenly discovers that the originally noisy surroundings have suddenly quietened down. Everyone's eyes were fixed in one direction, as if they had seen a ghost. Before Mu Yan could react, she hears a familiar magnetic voice. Mu Yan, are you hurt? Mu Yan turns her head to look, only to see a man dressed in green slowly walking over. Her eyebrows were like a painting, clear like water, with a rosy appearance like the moon, and unparalleled elegance. It was as if the most beautiful words in the world were too vulgar when used on this person. Gasps and groans could be heard all around. Their knees went soft and they almost collapsed. There were also cries of anguish that came from their souls. Mu Yan, however, smiled, Junior Marshal Uncle. Luo Yunshao walked up to her and looked her up and down. Are you all right? Mu Yan shook her head, then looked at him suspiciously and said in a low voice, Was it you who helped me just now, Junior Marshal Uncle? Luo Yunshao did not reply to her. Instead, she looked at Jiang Chuanrong and the others on the ground. A cold smile slowly appeared on her gentle jade-like face. The next moment, little Tian's mechanical voice rang out in the Tianguang ruins. Jiang Zhenhai, Jiang Chuanrong, enforcers Ding Mao, Zhang Guang, and Li Si. They abused their power, deceived their superiors, and illegally amassed wealth. Everything they did went against the rules of the enforcers of Tianguang ruins. I hereby announce the corresponding punishment for this group of people. Jiang Zhenhai, is fined 1 million high-grade crystals, removed from his position as a district administrator, and demoted to the lowest level user. Jiang Chuanrong, is removed from her position as an enforcer. She will be punished with a first-level divine soul lightning strike, and will be banished from Tianguang ruins forever, and is not allowed to enter again. Chapter 2107. Enforcers Ding Mao, Zhang Guang, Li Si, help the evildoer. Their positions as enforcers will be revoked and 10,000 popularity points will be deducted. If they commit the same offense again, they will be permanently banished from Tianguang ruins. As little Tian announced the punishments one by one, those who had just recovered from the divine soul electric shock turned pale again. It was fine to remove their positions as enforcers, but to deduct 10,000 popularity points, many of them would have negative popularity points. From then on, it would be difficult for them to do anything in Tianguang ruins. From a high and mighty high official to a lowly person who did not even have a jade key space, how could they accept such a drop? Jiang Chuanrong was even more dumbfounded. Then, when he came back to his senses, he immediately let out a hysterical roar. Why? My Jiang family has always been the enforcer of the upper third district. Why did you remove me, why? Before he could finish his words, a slap sent him flying. You bastard! Evil creature! Jiang Zhenhai, who had come to the middle third district, rushed over madly and kicked Jiang Chuanrong. Son of a bitch, our Jiang family is in deep trouble because of you. Jiang Zhenhai was the real disaster that fell from the sky. He did not know what had happened at all, but he was suddenly informed that his district manager position had been revoked and he had even become the lowest user. For a moment, it was like a bolt from the blue, and he was dumbfounded. When he found out that everything was caused by his nephew, Jiang Chuanrong, he immediately hated him to the core. Get ready for level 1 Divine Soul Electric Shock. Little Tian's cold voice came from the sky. This time, Jiang Chuanrong was really panicking. He desperately wanted to leave Tianguang ruins, but found that he could not. Uncle, save me. I don't want to take the Divine Soul Electric Shock. Jiang Chuanrong's face was full of snot and tears as he cried for help. He was an enforcer and knew better than anyone what level 1 Divine Soul Electric Shock meant. Ordinary Divine Soul Electric Shock would only damage the spirit or weaken the cultivation. However, a level 1 Divine Soul Electric Shock could take a person's life. Even if he did not die from the shock, he would become an idiot. Jiang Chuanrong was an out-of-body stage cultivator. How could he become an idiot? Uncle, save me. I know I'm wrong. I won't mess with Yap Liangchen anymore. Forgive me. Forgive me. Ah! As an earth-shattering bolt of lightning fell, everyone present shuddered in unison. It was because of Jiang Chuanrong's blood-curdling screams, and also because of the fact that his entire body, flesh, bones, and soul had been distorted after being electrocuted. Was this Tianguang Ruin's first-level Divine Spirit Electric Shock punishment? Even a cultivator at the Crossing Calamity stage wouldn't be able to endure such a horrible punishment, right? Such an outcome shocked everyone and made them realize that Yap Liangchen was special in the Tianguang Ruins. Up until now, anyone who wanted to deal with Yi Liangchen in the Tianguang Ruins had died. Without exception, all of them ended up in a miserable state. Little Martial Uncle, where have you been recently? Why didn't he come to see us? That's right, our domains have all been activated. Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, fourth senior sister, and fifth senior brother have all advanced to the second stage of their domains. We practice the blood slaughter sword formation every day. In the backyard of Laozi's #1 shop, the people of the Xiaoyao sect, who had hurriedly gone online, surrounded their little martial uncle and chattered non-stop. Luo Yunxiao's expression was still calm, without any fluctuations. Chapter 2108. But if you look carefully, you can still see that the indifferent face has a faint gentleness. Junior Master, we have opened all our domains. Even Instructor Mo praised us. Aren't you going to praise us? Luo Yu giggled. As for Instructor Mo's, barely qualified, was that considered a compliment? Of course it was. Luo Yunxiao's gaze seems to sweep over Mayan. Her hands slowly clench, and without a trace, she loosens them. He picked up the peach blossom wine in front of him and took a sip. Then he said lightly, our strength has indeed improved. The 7 of them were so happy as if they had eaten honey. They were so happy that they wanted to spin in circles. Oh, Instructor Mo and Junior Master both praised them. They're so great. Just like what Bai Xie said, they must give themselves 32 likes. However, the next moment, Luo Yunxiao's words made everyone's cheeks stiffen. The blood-slaughtering sword array is not enough for your practice. He leisurely took out a jade slip and a pile of array boards and threw them in front of them, so, I have made a new practice plan for you. The 7 of them looked at each other. After a long while, they took the jade slip with trembling hands and immersed their divine sense into it. They almost fainted from the shock. The one who had the biggest reaction was Mu Yan, who had always been the most leisurely and indifferent. Junior Master, are you kidding? 360 sword energies of the blood-slaughtering sword array, and only dodging and resisting it without using spiritual power. Not to mention, there was also the spirit refinement of the raging flame array, the body forging of the ice array, the meridian refining of the extreme wood array. Every practice was as difficult as climbing up to the sky. It could peel off a layer of skin. Was this a practice that a normal person could complete? The practice of the others in the Xiaoyao sect was a little easier than Mu Yan, but it was definitely beyond the limits of the human body. Luo Yunxiao put the peach blossom wine aside and raised his hand. A guqin appeared in front of him. His slender hands gently plucked the strings. Unfortunately, what came out was not beautiful music, but a harsh noise. It's okay if you don't want to learn. Everyone was happy. Luo Yunxiao continued, then let's settle the debt you owe me. The Xiaoyao Seven's face stiffened. Wahahaha, master, let me do it. I'll settle it with them. Chiwen jumped out excitedly and shouted, before Mei Yanyan came, all the expenses of the Xiaoyao school were paid by my master. Of course, Shi Qing was the one who paid most of the expenses. But Shi Qing is your master. A master for a day is a father for a lifetime. Is there anything wrong with a son paying his father's debt? The faces of Yun Ruhan and the others sank. Especially Yun Ruhan, she knew very well how many crystals her master had spent on little Ant Master. Moreover, most of it was used by master to buy wine, the kind of fine wine that cost dozens of high-grade crystal stones for 1 ounce. Mu Yan opens her mouth, wanting to speak. Luo Yunxiao glanced at her faintly and said, I'm here to drink with you. He, in this world, you're the first one who dares to make master drink with another woman, Mei Yanyan. Not to mention, master will personally teach you sword techniques. You owe master the most. Chiwen shouted excitedly, if you really don't want to cultivate, why don't you devote yourself to me? Splat. Luo Yunxiao slapped Chiwen to the ground, silencing her. Luo Yunxiao's gaze swept over the 7 people present. Now, do you still have any objections? No. The 7 people shook their heads like a rattle drum. Chapter 2109. What a joke, they were all poor people. Moreover, he was a pauper who lived for the moment. The crystals he earned during the 3 Academy tournament had already been spent. Where would he find the crystal stones to return to youngest uncle? Luo Yunxiao takes a deep look at Mayan. She only says, I'll come back to check in a month. Then she leaves the Tianguang ruins. This time, Chiwen was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, she bites the hem of Mayan's skirt. Mei Yan, don't blame master for being cold and strict, he's doing this for your own good. Your future will only be. Idiot, of course we understand that junior uncle is doing this for our own good. Mu Yan pinches Chiwen's bulbous nose, do you still need to remind us of this? Ling Yuma walked over and kicked Chiwen's butt. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and serve little martial uncle. Luo Yu leaned on the window and shouted, Chiwen, you must take good care of youngest martial uncle. Remind him to come back and visit us more often when he's free. Chiwen opened her eyes and looked at the indifferent young man sitting at the side as if he didn't care about anything. For some reason, she felt an inexplicable sourness in her heart. Master, those kids from the Xiaoyao sect actually care about you a lot. Luo Yunxiao gently smiled. A light smile blossomed on that incomparably handsome face. For a moment, even the surrounding lakes and mountains seemed to lose their color, leaving behind only this breathtaking beauty. However, when Chiwen saw that smile, she only felt endless desolation and loneliness. It was as if the world was covered by snow and ice, and the world was covered by an endless curtain of night. She could no longer see the flowers blooming in spring or the sun in the clear sky. It is precisely because of this that I should stay away from them, just a little bit more. after Luo Yunxiao and Qi Wen left, the people of the Xiaoyao sect also left the Tianguang ruins. Only Mu Yan stayed behind. She took out the medicine master token and the 4 glass beads, and inserted the glass beads into the 4 corners of the medicine master token. In the next moment, an ancient and deep voice resounded in his ears. The Medicine King token has been activated. Do you want to enter the inheritance space immediately? Mu Yan's heart flutters, and she quickly settles her mind to answer, yes, at the same time, in the Medicine King Hall of Xuxian Continent. Han Chujiu was lying on the couch like a salted fish. Her cheeks were puffed up and her face was full of despair. All of a sudden, the heaven void cauldron, which was stuffed with junk, began to buzz. Han Chujiu suddenly jumped up from the couch and stared at the dazzling heavenly void cauldron. Her breathing got faster and faster. Disciple, his precious disciple had finally arrived. As soon as Mayan's yes falls to the ground, she feels a blur in front of her eyes, her head heavy and her feet light. It was as if he was grabbed by a giant hand and thrown into the endless sea, rolling along with the waves. When she finally came back to her senses, she realized that she was in a messy hole. One could say that the main hall was shabby, but every beam and pillar was richly ornamented and resplendent. You could say that it was luxurious, but there was trash and waste paper everywhere. All sorts of pill furnaces were placed around the hole. However, these seemingly expensive pill furnaces were filled with paper balls and the skins of some unknown spirit fruits. This is the King of Medicine's inheritance space. The corner of Mu Yan's mouth twitches. Isn't this a bit too much of a personality? So how was she going to obtain the inheritance of the King of Herbs? Should I clean the room first? Or was he looking for a mechanism? Cough, cough. A deliberately suppressed cough interrupts Mayan's train of thought. Chapter 21:10. She quickly turned her head and saw a gray-haired old man slowly coming out from behind the screen. The old man's figure is not tall, he is only a little taller than Mu Yan. His hair is as white as snow and is tied up with a jasper hairpin. His beard is also snow-white, hanging down to his chest. While coughing, the old man stroked his beard, which makes him look like an immortal. But when Mu Yan looks at this old man, she always feels a strange sense of incongruity. After observing for a long time, she can see that the old man's eyes are too clear, too bright, and too round. And his mouth, although most of it is covered by his white beard, she can still vaguely see his pink lips. Presumptuous. A fierce and low voice came, "Lower your head, who allowed you to look directly at this master?" This voice is mixed with a strong pressure, which made Mu Yan jump in fright. She quickly lowered her eyes and dared not to look at it again. But inside her heart, she became more and more curious. "Are you the sacred ancestor Medicine King?" "Of course." Han Chujiu coldly snorted. "Besides me, is there a second person in this world who can become a sacred ancestor-level refiner?" After boasting, Han Chujiu said, "Do you want to get this Master's Medicine King inheritance?" Mu Yan nodded her head without hesitation. "Then, you first refine a batch of elixirs for this master to see." Then, she casually waved her hand, and some common elixirs in the Xuxian continent piled up like a mountain in front of her. One of the alchemy furnaces filled with garbage also appeared in front of Mu Yan. When Han Chujiu saw the garbage inside, she blushed and quickly waved her hand to clean up the garbage. "Let's refine here." Mu Yan did not hesitate and quickly chose the elixirs to refine. She is still refining the barrier-breaking Dan that she is best at. As the fire rises, the elixirs are slowly melted one by one. From time to time, Han Chujiu's voice sounded in the main hall. "Ha! What is this formula? Why haven't I seen it before?" "Gee, interesting, it can actually stimulate the potential and clear the mind." If you take it, it should help people to break through the bottleneck. You're quite an interesting lass. However, when Mu Yan controlled the fire and began to fuse the melted elixirs, Han Chuzhou, on the other hand, flew into a rage and shouted, "What a waste of natural resources! What a waste of God's gifts! Such a good pill formula was actually refined with such a trashy method. Which idiot taught you this method of controlling fire and condensing pills? What an idiot, an idiot, an idiot!" Mu Yan awkwardly stops what she's doing. She couldn't continue. If she continued, she was afraid that this king of medicine would be so angry that he would smash her head with an alchemy furnace. Han Chujia's eyes widened and roared, "Tell me, which bastard taught you how to control the fire to refine dawn? This is killing a genius. I'm going to strangle this idiot to death." Mayan touches her nose and says awkwardly, "No one taught me, I fumbled around on my own." In the Tian Mo Qin space, the basic compendium of alchemy and the intermediate compendium of alchemy teach relevant theories, but they don't actually teach her how to control fire or how to condense pills. In fact, this thing could not be taught with words alone. Therefore, Mayan used her divine sense to feel the changes of the elixirs inch by inch according to the pill recipe and the process of alchemy, and fumbled it out herself. This time, it was Han Chuzhou who was shocked. Fumbled it out herself. The most difficult part of alchemy is controlling the fire and condensing the dan. Ordinary alchemists may not be able to master these two aspects even after being taught by a famous teacher for several years. Chapter 21:11. But the little girl in front of him, without anyone's guidance, actually fumbled out a set of fire control and dawn. Even if Han Chuzhou criticized it as worthless, he knows that compared to many alchemy sects in the Shushan continent, this set of fire control and dawn is already very exquisite. Did you really fumble it out by yourself? Mu Yan nodded her head with difficulty, waiting for the Medicine King's scolding. However, after waiting for a long time, she found that there was no sound from the opposite side. When she looked up, she saw the Medicine King, who has a sage-like appearance, half raised his head, smiling with a sneaky face. Her big round eyes were sparkling, and her pink and tender cherry lips were smacking as if she was savoring the aftertaste of something delicious. Han Chuzhou was really happy at this time. He knew that the person who can trigger the Medicine King's inheritance and pass the Medicine King's assessment is not an ordinary person. However, he had never imagined that his disciple would be so talented. In the future, when he trained her, he will be able to beat Di Ming. At that time, he will let the people of the Polar Domain's imperial court kneel down and sing surrender. Heh heh heh, Mu Yan blinked her eyes, her heart was curious. What happened to the Medicine King? Up close, the Medicine King's skin is very good. Because of his excitement, his white skin is red. It looks like a red apple. Mu Yan stretched out her claws, wanting to pinch the Medicine King's face to see if it was just an illusion. Han Chuzhou suddenly came back to his senses. He was scared and took a few steps back. He covered his beard and said, "Bold little apprentice, what are you doing?" Mu Yan retracted her hand in embarrassment and coughed lightly. "Medicine King, my fire control and dawn." She hasn't finished her words, but Han Chuzhou angrily said, "What Medicine King? Call me master." "Master! Master! You are my only apprentice, the only successor of the Medicine King Hole. Do you want to deceive your master and betray your ancestors?" Mu Yan wrinkled her eyebrows in embarrassment, "But I already have a master. Although Shi Qing didn't teach her anything, he is also her master. If Shi Qing hadn't brought her into the Xiaoyao school, she wouldn't have met her fellow disciples, and she wouldn't have been taught by her junior martial uncle." Han Chuzhou contemptuously said, "Can those garbage alchemists in the lower realm compare with me? That kind of trash doesn't deserve to be called a master." Mu Yan opens her mouth, wanting to say that he's not a master in alchemy. Han Chujiu impatiently said, okay, then can you reluctantly call me Zhou Shifu? Mu Yan immediately called out obediently, Ninth Master. When Han Chujiu heard her little apprentice obediently call her Zhou Shifu, her heart burst with joy. She felt so happy that bubbles burst out of her bubble. Han Chujiu has a disciple. He finally had a precious disciple, ha ha ha. However, the ecstatic Medicine King coughed lightly and said, if you want to enter my Medicine King Hall and become my successor, you still need to promise me 2 things. Mu Yan, Ninth Master, please speak. Han Chujiu was silent for a long time, then slowly said, when you ascend to the Shushan continent one day, you will help me raise a flower and plant a fruit. Mu Yan's heart moved. Is it the flower of the other shore and the yellow spring's fruit? Han Chujiu took a deep look at her and nodded her head. You have experienced the pain of planting the yellow spring's fruit in the moistening space, but that was only a simulated process. If you really want to plant the flower of the other shore and the yellow spring's fruit in the real world, it will be thousands of times more difficult than in the virtual space. You may even lose your soul. Are you willing? Chapter 21:12. Mu Yan nodded without hesitation, I promise. Han Chujiu was startled, don't you understand? It's very dangerous to plant the red spider lily. It's very dangerous. It's possible to die and never be reincarnated. Mu Yan curved up her lips and revealed a casual smile. In the long run, I want to learn your skills. How can I say it without paying a price? In the short run, you are my master. A teacher for a day is a father for life. It's only natural for me to help you. What's more, the so-called cultivator is stepping on the tip of a knife every day to become stronger. If I'm afraid of wolves in front of me and tigers behind me, I might as well stay at home and do embroidery. Although I don't know how to do embroidery. Mu Yan added a sentence in her heart. Han Chujiu stared at the young girl in front of her. Then, her big round eyes got brighter and brighter, and a little watery. Woo! His precious disciple was really too good. The best in the world. Mu Yan asked, Zhou Shifu, what's the second thing? Han Chujiu returned to her senses and quickly stabilized her emotions. She continued to maintain her sage-like image. But when it came to the second thing, she gritted her teeth. After you ascend to the Shushan continent, I want you to teach a lesson to a group of people. Those people bullied Master. Yes. Han Chujiu clenched her fists in anger. They have been squeezing me, laughing at me, and bullying me for many years. When you are strong, you must avenge me and bully them back. Mu Yan. Why is the legendary Xingzhu Medicine King completely different from what she imagined? What the hell is bullying them back? If they are enemies, shouldn't they be killed directly? When Han Chujiu saw Mu Yan's expression, she thought she was worried that the other party was too strong and she can't win. So, she quickly comforted her, don't worry, in this world, it's not only those cultivators who are strong. Alchemists can also be strong and invincible. If not for my body being trapped in this Medicine King Hall and unable to get out, Master, I'd have long gone to blow up their dog heads. Mu Yan swallowed her saliva. Aren't alchemists purely non-combat cultivators? Are all alchemists in the Shushan continent so strong? How can alchemists fight with people? Using medicinal pills to smash people to death. As for using poison, it was certainly possible to deal with the weak, but against the strong, you first had to have a way to use spiritual power to send the poison into the opponent's body. Otherwise, no matter how powerful the poison was, it would be useless. Mayan coughs lightly, Master, in fact, apart from alchemy, I'm very strong in other areas. When I arrive at the Shushan continent, I will definitely help you teach that bastard who bullied you a lesson. Han Chujiu looked at her little apprentice and showed a gratified smile. However, you can't let your guard down. Master's greatest enemy is extremely powerful, and even Master is afraid of him. Cough cough, I can only barely fight him to a draw. If you want to defeat him, it's useless to just use those clumsy martial skills you learned in the cultivation continent. Mu Yan's heart shuddered, and she was somewhat eager to give it a try. I wonder who Ninth Master's enemy is. When she ascends to the Shushan continent, she doesn't know if she can avenge her Ninth Master. Han Chujiu imagined the scene of his precious apprentice beating Di Mingju. He laughed so much that his beard almost fell down. He hurriedly tried to save her, and then solemnly said, "But, with your current strength, let alone learning fighting skills, you can't even learn alchemy skills well." Chapter 21:13. Next, you should go to the inheritance space and learn how to control fire. If you can't reach the level of controlling a level 1 Dan fire at will, don't even think about coming out. Mu Yan opened her mouth to speak, but Han Chujiu had already waved her hand. Suddenly, a strong airflow hit her face. When Mu Yan opened her eyes, she was already in a small closed room. In the four corners of the room, there is a dragon head. In the middle, there is a chessboard. The lines on the chessboard are crisscrossed, and in the four corners, there are 4 chess pieces: black, white, red, and yellow. Mu Yan is feeling strange when she hears Han Chujiu's voice coming from the void. "Disciple, what you need to do is to use the flames spewed out from the 4 dragon heads to urge the 4 chess pieces to move. These 4 chess pieces are smelted with a special crystal stone. Only a unique spiritual fire can move them. But this kind of crystal stone is extremely fragile and sensitive. If the fire is not enough, the chess pieces will not move. If the fire is too strong, the chess pieces and the chessboard will be instantly burned to powder. What you need to do is to use the corresponding spiritual fire from the dragon heads to control the 4 chess pieces to the end. At that time, you will be able to master the primary fire control technique. At that time, you will be qualified to learn how to refine pills." Mu Yan is about to ask, when the 4 dragon heads suddenly spurt out 4 fierce flames at the same time. The temperature in the whole room suddenly rises. Mu Yan can't dodge in time and is directly burned by one of the flames. She groans in pain. Mu Yan calms down and quickly urges her spiritual power, trying to control the 4 flames. However, even if her divine sense is incomparably strong, she is still flustered. During this period, she was burned by the flames several times. With great difficulty, she finally controls the 4 flames. Mu Yan carefully separates a wisp and manipulates the 4 flames to drive the 4 chess pieces. Bean-sized beads of sweat roll down from her forehead, and the muscles of her whole body are tense to the extreme. However, as soon as the flames touch the chess pieces, there is a loud bang from below, and the chess pieces and the chessboard explode. The flames and the aftermath of the explosion overturn Mu Yan to the ground, and she directly spits out a mouthful of blood. She couldn't help but moan at the burning pain in her soul. In the room, the 4 pillars of fire continue to spit out, and the broken chessboard recondenses. Mu Yan slowly stands up and walks back to the chessboard. In the void, Han Chujiu's spiritual sense explored the scene inside the hut, feeling quite proud. "Hee, my good disciple, I was burned by the hidden dragon's 4 fires, for 7 days and 7 nights before I grasped the elementary fire controlling art. You have to work harder. Master will give you 10 days. If you still can't grasp the elementary fire manipulation art in 10 days, then Master will give you another chance. By the way, the most important thing now was not to watch his little disciple practice the fire manipulating technique, but to show off to those guys in the Divine Wind Palace. Han Chujo suddenly opened her eyes. Ignoring the exhaustion of her spirit, she immediately condensed a doppelganger and hurriedly flew toward the Divine Wind Palace. Teaching Mu Yan in the inheritance space, Han Chujo does not need to consume her divine soul. But in the inheritance space, there was no way to disguise his appearance. That was why he had first dragged him into the mustard seed medicine king hall that the heaven void cauldron had transformed into. Han Chujo couldn't imagine what kind of expression her precious disciple will have when he sees the legendary king of medicine as a teenager. Would his precious disciple laugh at him? No, no, no. Absolutely not. Chapter 21:14. He would rather consume his soul to maintain his immortal image in front of his little disciple. As soon as Han Chujo arrived at Lingshao Hall, she found that the atmosphere was heavy. A person knelt on the ground and bowed to Di Mingju, who was sitting at the head of the table. Reporting to Jun Shang, Lingxi Valley sent a message asking for help, saying that the enchantment at the back of their mountain is unstable and the poltergeist ghosts have invaded. Lingxi Valley has already lost many immortals and will soon be unable to resist. Requesting help from all sides. Di Mingju slightly frowned and did not answer. Someone below sneered, Lingxi Valley is asking us for help. Did I hear it wrong? Didn't the Valley Master of Lingxi Valley say that the polar domain is nothing and that they will never surrender to us? That old woman even shamelessly insulted Di Jun. Now she actually came to ask us for help. Does she still have any face? Jun Shang, this subordinate doesn't think it's appropriate to rescue them this time. An old man bowed and said, the enchantment at the northern frontier of the polar domain has just stabilized. The Xian and Yu tribes have suffered some damage. If it weren't for the Medicine King's antidote, I'm afraid the consequences would be unimaginable. Yes, Jun Shang. Another person also said, this subordinate heard that the enchantment of Lingxi Valley did not open naturally, but because they had a plan and deliberately opened it. I didn't expect that it would become unstable and the poltergeist ghosts would invade. The number of poltergeist ghosts invading the back of Lingxi Valley is far more than our polar domain. Once the poltergeist ghosts form a group, even with the Medicine Kings, Heaven detoxification pill, I'm afraid it will not bode well. Our polar domain and Lingxi Valley are neither relatives nor friends, we even have enmity. We really don't need to get involved in these muddy waters. Hee, the netherworld is closer to Lingxi Valley. That old woman of Lingxi Valley often fawns over Yin Wuji, but this time when Lingxi Valley is in trouble, does the netherworld have any reaction? Di Mingju quietly listened to the people below. After a long time, he coldly said, the polar domain will not send troops to help Lingxi Valley. Hearing Di Mingju's decision, the people below immediately showed a relieved expression. But the next moment, they heard Di Mingju slowly said, all of you stay to guard the imperial city in the northern frontier, Ben Jun will go to Lingxi Valley myself. Everyone was startled at first, then immediately exploded. My lord, you must not do that. How can you risk your life for a mere spirit rhinoceros valley? If Jun Shang wants you to go, we might as well send troops to help. Di Mingju's fierce gaze sweeps over everyone present, his pupils cold and heavy, his expression disdainful, as if he's the god of the ninth heaven. Ben Jun has already decided, you don't need to say anything more. Pijuan, come with me. The man standing to the left of Di Mingju silently bows, as you bid, Jun Shang. My lord, my lord. You can't take the risk. My lord, let this subordinate accompany you. In the twinkling of an eye, Di Mingju arrives outside the hall. With a wave of his hand, the door behind him closes. Those complicated sounds were also shut behind the door. His eyes swept around and saw Han Chujo, who was standing on the side. He coldly said, "Medicine King, is there something?" Han Chujo stared at him blankly. For a moment, she forgot what she came here for. She muttered, "You little demon, do you know how terrible it is when the poltergeist ghosts form a group and surround us? If you can't kill them all in a short period of time, they will continue to regenerate, and the poltergeist ghosts and the enchantment will continue to pour out. But you can't touch them in the slightest. You have to constantly consume your divine power to kill them. Even if you have more divine power, it's not enough for such a bottomless pit." Chapter 21:15. He has been poisoned too much. Even the Heaven Spirit detoxification pill is useless. You're risking your life just to save a spirit Rhino Valley. Are you out of your mind? With an expressionless face, Di Ming-ju listens to him call him a brat, and hears him say that his brain is broken. It was only after he finished nagging that he sneered, "If the skin doesn't exist, how can the hair attach itself to it? Of course, I can choose not to help Spirit Rhino Valley, but if no one goes to help, with the ravaging poltergeist ghosts, who on the Shushan continent would be spared? Ben-jun is still waiting. Ben-jun is still waiting for Yen-yen and Xiao Bao to come to the Shushan continent. How could he allow Yen-yen to cultivate diligently in the future and ascend to this place, wanting to be with him forever, only to see a world riddled with holes?" Han Chujo said with disappointment, "Then, you can bring your shrimp soldiers and crab generals with you. Too many people will naturally exhaust the poltergeist to death. You don't use the people under you and take the risk alone. Are you stupid or just stupid?" Back then, this kid seemed to be smart and ruthless. Why did he become stupid after becoming the Polar Domain's sovereign emperor? Di Ming-ju calmly looks at him, the corner of his mouth slowly hooking up into a mocking smile, who told the Medicine King's Heaven Spirit detoxification pill to only cure the symptoms of the cockroach poison, it couldn't save the true life. Without the antidote for the nightmare poison, you brought people to the Spirit Rhino Valley to rescue them. Do you think that the lives of our Polar Domain soldiers are worthless? After that, Xiao Tianyao didn't wait for Han Chujo to react, his figure disappeared without a trace. Han Chujo stood in the same place for a long time. Then, he finally made an earth-shattering roar. "Di Ming-ju, you bastard, you really aren't a good thing. You actually dare to mock this old man's medicinal pill. Just you wait, just you wait. This old man will develop an antidote to the pie poison and smash it on your face. When this old man's precious disciple comes up, this old man will definitely let him beat you into a pig's head." Han Chujo stormed back to the Medicine King Hall and directly entered the inheritance space. He was about to go crazy. He must supervise his little disciple to immediately, and rapidly grow stronger. Grasping the fire manipulation art in 10 days. No. Too slow. 7 days. No, he needed 6 days to master the fire manipulation art. However, as soon as Han Chujo entered the inheritance space, she scanned with her spiritual sense. But, she was so shocked that she almost fell into the room. How could this be? Of the 4 chess pieces, 3 had already reached the end. And the last one, under Mayan's control, is getting closer and closer to the finish line. Han Chujo stared at the hourglass in the inheritance space. The flow of time in the inheritance space was much slower than in the real world. A day here was equivalent to 2 hours outside. Looking at the hourglass, it was clear that only 3 days had passed. He learned the fire manipulation art in 3 days. How was this possible? The last chess piece slowly reached the end. In the blink of an eye, the fire dragon that was originally spitting out disappeared, and the chessboard also emitted a sparkling light, enveloping Mu Yan's entire body. Mayan only feels that her divine sense and spiritual power, which had originally been completely depleted, are instantly replenished. Her body felt as if she was soaking in a hot spring, so comfortable that she wanted to moan. Ninth Master. Mu Yan beamed with joy. This method of controlling fire that you taught me is really too powerful. I feel that my control over the pill fire has increased by more than 3 times compared to before. In the past, she could only refine 10 barrier-breaking pills in one furnace. If she were to refine again now, one furnace would absolutely surpass 30 pills. Mu Yan moved her sore arm, sighing. Chapter 21:16. It's just that it's really not easy to control 4 different types of spirit fire in one go. I spent a day before I could skillfully differentiate and control the 4 types of spirit fire. Grasping the power to move the chess pieces took another day or so. Unknowingly, I actually spent 3 days. This fire manipulation art is indeed somewhat difficult to learn. It is indeed worthy of being the Medicine King's inheritance. Han Chujo, he felt like he had been stabbed in the heart by an arrow. 3 days. 3 days. This little disciple of his managed to learn the beginner-level fire manipulation art in 3 days, and he actually said that it was difficult. How many days did she need to learn it? 2 days. 1 day. It took Han Chuji 7 days to master the basic fire-controlling art. But now, Han Chuji's blood got stuck in his throat. He couldn't spit it out. Why did that brat Di Mingju hit him so hard? He wanted to seek comfort from his precious disciple, but in the end, he was hurt even more. This world is too cruel to Han Chujo. Ninth Master. Are you there? Ahem, Han Chujo lightly coughed and picked up the broken pieces of her heart and reassembled them. Then, she calmly said, Your performance is good, you have met the expectations of this master. Next, you can try using the elementary fire manipulation art to refine pills. Mu Yan frowned, and said with some difficulty, Ninth Master, I also want to try to refine pills, but I discovered, after I passed the Medicine King's inheritance assessment, it seems that the power of alchemy is a little out of control, and every time I refine pills, I will explode a pill furnace. Moreover, every time it exploded, it was a 7th or 8th grade alchemy furnace, each of which was worth more than 10,000 crystals, or even 1,000,000 crystals. If she continued to blow things up, she would really be penniless. Han Chujo disdainfully said, Those broken copper and iron in the Shuzhen continent can also be called alchemy furnace. Bah, you're not even qualified to be my trash can. Here, these alchemy furnaces are for you. As soon as her voice falls, several alchemy furnaces fall in front of Mayan. As soon as Mayan sees these alchemy furnaces, her eyes widen and she swallows a few mouthfuls of saliva. Good, so many crystal stones. No, so many top-grade alchemy furnaces. None of them could be compared to the alchemy furnaces on the road of cultivation. Ninth Master, you're giving me all of this. Of course. Han Chujo said indifferently, Isn't it just an alchemy furnace? You are my, Han Chuji's, only disciple. So, if you want something, I can give it to you. Oh, but because of the space barrier, the immortal medicine, spiritual medicine, and spiritual fire here cannot be passed to you through the inheritance space. In short, my good disciple, you must cultivate well and strive to ascend as soon as possible. Help me teach that bastard a lesson. Finally, when Han Chujo said the word bastard, she gnashed her teeth in anger. Mu Yan thought to herself, it seems that Ninth Master really hates the person who bullied him. Oh, Ninth Master is so good to me. When I ascend, I must avenge him. He would ruthlessly bully those who bullied him. Han Chujo added, during this time, this master wants to study and refine a kind of pill. I have no time to teach you. You should practice by yourself. If there's anything you don't understand, just call me. Mu Yan nodded her head obediently. After confirming that Han Chujia's soul has disappeared, she left the inheritance space. When she opened her eyes again, she didn't return to Tianguang ruins. Instead, she went straight back to the Tian Mo Qin space. In the future, if she wants to enter the inheritance space, she doesn't need to go through Tianguang ruins. She only needs to hold the Medicine King's token and activate it with her divine sense. Chapter 21:17. What pleasantly surprised her the most about the Medicine King token is that the flow of time inside is 12:1. Staying in the inheritance space for a day is equivalent to only 1 hour outside. For her alchemy cultivation, it's really a godly weapon. Mayan opens her eyes and looks at the 4 dazzling alchemy furnaces that came back with her. She's practically blooming with joy. Oh, it's really great to have a master. She can finally earn Jingshi through alchemy. She finally doesn't have to be a pauper anymore. Dinghua Manor. A wisp of green aura slowly flows into Chu Xinyan's body through a strange talisman array. The originally wrinkled skin on Chu Xinyan's neck slowly becomes smooth and compact. The originally gentle and refined face also becomes more graceful and luxurious, full of vitality. The green aura slowly dissipates, and Chu Xinyan shows an intoxicated expression. He glances at the person opposite him, greed and unwillingness flitting through his eyes. He sees that Chu Tianyu, who is sitting not far away, has a deathly pale complexion, and there are strands of white hair on his temples. He's clearly less than 30 years old, but at this moment, he looks like he's aged 10 or 20 years. Fine wrinkles crawl up the corners of his eyes, his skin is even more deathly pale, his cheeks are sunken, and he's emaciated. It's like someone has suddenly drained him of his flesh and vitality. There's a thread stuck in his chest, and the other end of the thread is connected to that strange talisman array. And the vitality that is channeled into Chu Xinyan's body is extracted from Chu Tianyu's body through this thread. Vitality is a combination of flesh and blood, vitality, soul, and spiritual power. Such a precious vitality is extracted little by little, and in an instant, his hair turns white. This kind of pain and despair is by no means what ordinary people can imagine. Chu Tianyu's body trembles violently, dark red instant noodles spilling from the corners of his mouth. The rise and fall of his chest and the fluctuations of spiritual power around his body are getting weaker and weaker. Chu Xinyan frowns regretfully. It seems that he can't extract any more vitality, otherwise, Chu Tianyu will immediately run out of oil and die. He takes off his gloves and looks at his smooth and powerful hands, his eyes filled with fascination. It feels so good to be able to seize other people's vitality and increase his own lifespan. Unfortunately, the demonic cultivator array that he obtained can only be used on people who are directly related to him by blood. Otherwise, his body would explode and he would die because of the incompatibility between his spiritual energy and blood. Over the years, Chu Xinyan had married and snatched women with good aptitudes one after another. Let them give birth to their own bloodline. Whether it was a man or a woman, as long as they were raised to the gold core stage, their vitality would be sucked clean. However, as his lifespan passed the end of the tribulation stage, his fertility was getting worse and worse. He had defiled hundreds of women without being able to get them pregnant. In the 20 years after Chu Tianyu was born, he had only given birth to a child by a woman. That child, on the other hand, was only 5 years old and was still far from reaching the golden core realm. Chu Xinyan looked down at Chu Tianyu, who was convulsing in pain and coughing up blood from time to time. He laughed lightly and said, Father doesn't want to treat you like this. Right now, you are my only son. But you really disappoint me. How is it? Have you thought it through? Are you willing to tell us Yi Liangchen's real identity? Chu Tianyu slowly stopped convulsing. His body curled up into a ball and he didn't speak. Chu Xinyan's voice became gentler and gentler. Father knows that you are afraid of being killed by the 6-star order like Song Wei, but don't worry. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.